I don't think you are, but I started just before you said that. So, oh, okay. Oh, okay. Duh, that's right. Well, anyway, I think it's time for us to get going, don't you think? All right. Let's try it. So yes, it's that time again. It's time for a SkyTour LiveStream here on the evening of the opposition of Jupiter. And what is that? Well, find out in just a few minutes. I want to thank everybody for joining us and for coming along for the ride. I'm here with my wonderful co-host Amanda, who you hear on SkyTour Radio every Sunday night at 9 p.m. on KGRA Radio at kgraradio.com. So I'm looking forward to this stream. We're going to see what we're going to see. There's no moon tonight, and we're going to look at galaxies. We're going to look at Jupiter and maybe a few little surprises along the way. So we'll see you in just a couple of minutes. And there we are. No, go ahead. That's true. Yeah, tonight we're going to actually go back to the typical thing that we expect to see, and that is the sky, the deep sky, as a matter of fact. So, oh, actually, that's right, huh? I got you now. I got you. All right, well, you know, while we're waiting, I shall go over and just change that because it's not a robin's nest that we're looking at, is it? No, it isn't. Oh, in the live stream? Yes, that's correct. It is. That's right. Well, that's going to change. That's right. It does. You can actually see the red spot very clearly along with the dark bands above and below, just below it. You can see them. It's really pretty tonight. You know? Hey, is Keith out here too? Hey, hi Keith. What's going on, bro? Good to hear from you. Good to see that you came on board. You know, I guess you're not doing a lunar stream tonight because of the lateness of the moon. I'm guessing that's what it is. I would say so, right? Yeah. Wow. That is so cool. That is so cool. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, so I'm going to just change the title here because it makes sense to change the title. And there is the title change. And I'm hoping that the title change is now online. I guess that's going to be something for people to check. So yeah, we're looking at Jupiter, and it's beautiful. And let me just tell you, hey Daryl, let me just tell you what opposition means here. For those that don't know, you always hear about these things. Oh, it's an opposition, it's conjunction. What the heck is going on? Okay, well, opposition is a very interesting characteristic when we see a planet at opposition. And what it means is that the Earth is on the same side of the Sun as Jupiter. And when the Earth pulls into direct alignment with the Sun and Jupiter, that's as close as we can possibly be to this really, really distant planet. So that puts us at what's called opposition, as close as we can be. So I think, hey Ron, I think that's a really interesting time because it happens every 13 months. And it takes a little longer each time for the Earth to catch up. It takes 13 months, not 12, because Jupiter's also moving around in its orbit in the same direction we're moving. So we have to catch up a little bit more the next time we come around because Jupiter's moved some. And that corresponds to just about a month of our travel through our orbit to catch up to Jupiter. So, so that's interesting. So, without saying so, that should be enough for some of you out there to actually calculate how long it takes Jupiter to go around the sun once. If it takes us 13 months to catch up to Jupiter, you might be able to figure out how long it takes for Jupiter to go around. That might not be enough information as I think about it, but you can actually get close once you get the distance that it travels, and that's as much as I'll say. It's not a quiz. It's not something that is anything but extra credit. But you know, it's one of those things that you can puzzle out if you like. Anyway, I'm gonna pop out of this screen. I'm actually in the YouTube screen. I want to get out of it so I can get back to the actual the screen that we're looking at here. And I will. Huh? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, because you're yeah. Well, I'm in YouTube right now on my live stream page. So just temporarily until I get out of here. But I just want to get another data point here for you, because I want to just make sure that I know what I'm talking about with this, because I don't. Okay, that's what I thought. It takes Jupiter 12 years to go around the sun, and it takes us 1 year. So what's interesting is when you add it up, okay, and you do the calculation, you figure out that Jupiter moves a certain amount each year in the sky, and you can calculate it knowing these factors. You have to get the exact amount of time. Mars takes about 687 days to go around the sun. Saturn takes 29 years versus Jupiter's 12 years. And that's interesting considering that Saturn's the next furthest planet out, so you would expect it to take longer, and it does. But the difference between 12 years and 29 years is more than double. So, that puts Saturn quite a bit further out. So, you think that we just go to Jupiter and Saturn, and in grade school, we're taught that, it's Jupiter and Saturn, and we kind of think of them as near each other. But they couldn't be more wrong. They're nowhere near each other. They're absolutely as far apart from each other as you can possibly imagine. We're also fighting, believe it or not, we're fighting some light clouds tonight, but I believe that they're heading away. Okay, I can actually see that we're looking at Jupiter through some clouds right now, but I'm doing my best to track that for us. But if you look at Jupiter right now, you can actually see that we've got this beautiful red spot in the just left of center of the planet. You can see it there. An interesting factoid about Jupiter's red spot. It used to be a lot bigger. When I was a kid and I looked at Jupiter, this red spot appeared to be almost as big as that white band below it. Okay, now that white band, there's a subtle little reddish band that you can see there. And that subtle reddish band that you see is sort of like a divider. And in between that large red band that Jupiter's red spot is near, we call it the GRS, the Great Red Spot, and that lower, thinner red band, the red spot used to occupy a size of about that, not quite that, all right? And that's interesting because it shows that the red spot storm, which is what it is, it's a global storm that's bigger than the Earth, or at least it was, is now probably about the size of the Earth. And that is a change. It's been shrinking. And it's been noted that it's been shrinking, okay, for, decades. So, interesting stuff. Now, I don't know if there's any questions out there. Actually, I don't even know how many are actually in the stream right now. And nice. I love it. Yeah. Oh, how about that? You know what? Zodiacal. Well, zodiacal. Yeah. Well, the thing is, okay, when we talk about the constellations of the zodiac, What we mean by that is that those are the constellations, the groupings of stars that we've labeled through our mythology, through which the sun passes each year. That's why we don't have a someone saying, "Oh, I'm a Lyra. What are you? Oh, I'm a Cygnus. Oh, we do have Scorpios and we do have Libras, but we don't have Orions. I'd like to be an Orion myself. Actually, I think that'd be the coolest zodiac name for my sign if we had one. But the sun doesn't go through Orion, so when we talk about the zodiac, well, the planets go through the same zodiac that the sun goes through, because they're all in a plane. And that plane is called the ecliptic, like eclipse, but ecliptic. And that's a line that's projected on the sky that corresponds to the plane of the solar system as seen from like outside and looking at the plane of our solar system. Hello? What happened? Oh, okay. No, that's fine. I thought you were making a statement. No, I'm glad you're back. I'm kidding. No. Well, especially me. No, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. But as I said, I think that it's important to understand that when we look at Jupiter and we see all the constellations that it goes through in the course of the year, that's the zodiac. And the people that wonder what just happened, obviously, now they know. Okay, you accidentally ditched us for a bit because you accidentally hit the hang up button. I've done that too. That's all right. But okay, if you look at Jupiter right here, just imagine this is what I saw when I was younger, and the Shoemaker-Levy comet was literally vivisected or broken apart by Jupiter and its gravity. And when it broke apart, it collided with Jupiter's outer bands, these outer atmospheric bands. And when it hit, it released a lot of energy. These fragments literally exploded like hitting a concrete wall. Basically, larger than nuclear blasts were hitting Jupiter's upper cloud decks. And it was a neat little string. Now, what happened was, I was looking at it with a telescope that was sort of it was a Meade, it's one of these, but it was only an 8-inch diameter scope, and I was watching it, and I started to see, over a period of minutes, this dark spot in the lower left side of Jupiter starting to come around, and it took time, as Jupiter rotates. And when I astonished me, I saw this dark spot appearing, and I saw another one, and another one, and over time, I was like going, wow, what's going on at Jupiter? I've never seen these in all the years of looking at Jupiter. At that point, I had no idea, that Shoemaker-Levy had hit Jupiter. So I was trying to work it out, what's going on, what's happening, what am I seeing, and it turned out that, it was the scars of the comet impact, because when the comet hits, these things hit the upper cloud decks. They're moving at they have a kinetic energy, it's called energy of motion. And when that energy of motion is suddenly thwarted by like an atmosphere that acts more like a concrete wall, what happens next is that the planet ends up having to absorb all of that. But when it tries to absorb it, what's it do? Well, it ends up with a large scar, because there's a massive energy release. And this energy release is related to transferring kinetic energy into heat energy. That's the only other form it can go to at that point. You are? I wonder why. You can't hear me at all? Is it you or me? I wonder why you can't hear me. Okay. All right. You can only hear me. Well, isn't that's crazy. So you're on. All right, how about now when you talk? All right, let's get this straightened out with everybody. I'm changing the audio output. That's a good point. Wait, talk some more here. Okay, shouldn't I see? Okay, so, oh, okay, I will do that. Okay, dun 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 dun. Dun. Please stand by. We are experiencing technical difficulties. No, don't. I hate that song. Okay, so I know. Maybe when I lost you, what happened was that I lost your audio, and I've got to put it in. Really? Oh, okay. Well, then I'm gonna let me. All right. Well, then let me do this. Let me get rid of the. That's the audio output capture. That's you, correct? Okay. So let's remove it. And now all they can hear is me, and I'm gonna add it back. And we'll say audio output capture again.
Not echoey.
Yeah. And let's just leave it at default. Yes. Bear with us, folks. One moment. Just a minute. Now, let me hear you talk.
Tall and thin and young and lovely.
Now you're going out there.
Goes walking.
No, don't sing that or I'm going to mute you. They should be able to hear you now. See that?
Okay, well, I'm waiting.
No, you are. You're going out. You're definitely going out. They hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, they hear you. I guarantee.
Okay. We're good. Well, I say we're good. They can hear me now. That's good. Been... Heidi doesn't like my singing, so maybe they all do want me back on mute.
Oh, ba-dum-ba.
No, but I get to start all over now. All the silly, stupid things I said in the beginning of the stream, no one heard. So now I can start acting smart again.
That's great. That's right. That's right. Yeah, well, yeah, what you guys missed was nothing of importance because I think Amanda probably would hope you didn't hear it. She was just being fun and silly, and you know, she might.
I love that song, and Daryl knew what I was singing too. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, ugh.
It's the technical difficulties song.
It is.
You did that or Little Spanish Flea, but I sang that last time, so.
Yeah.
Back to Jupiter.
Yeah, back to Jupiter. When Jupiter
Lorraine
aligns with Mars.
Ooh.
Then peace will follow the planets.
And
that's it.
I love that song.
Of the age of... I'm trying to get the other song out of my head. That's what I'm doing, just so you understand.
Okay. I accidentally thought, you know, I love the song, I know the song, I'll sing the song at karaoke.
Yeah.
Wow, that gets really high pitch. And that's my problem with karaoke. There's so many songs I love, and then you start singing it, and it's like, oh yeah, I forgot about this part.
That's why
I can't hit these
try
notes.
them first. So what did Lorraine say? You were going to say something about Lorraine.
She said she's been seeing a lot of articles lately popping up about something about one of Jupiter's moons. But she is not getting to the bottom of it. Is something going on? Have we discovered a new moon, or are we planning on touring a moon, or like what? Have you heard anything about Jupiter's moons or anything?
Well, the only thing I heard of is that we're gonna have, we're gonna try to try and get that Europa mission going at some point, and I don't know if that's what she heard about. But
has the news lately?
I've seen some news articles about it, but I'm not sure that's what she's talking about. Well, here, let's do this. I'm gonna do something here. I want to actually get us to the point where we can actually see those moons we're talking about. Okay, so here we go. These are the Galilean satellites. And let me just move them over.
I don't like that. And it's only been recent since I've really been paying attention to people calling moons satellites.
They are. The moon is a satellite of the Earth. And it's always been a satellite before it was a moon. So, you just have to...
Well, what satellite in that sense as opposed to the ones we send up looking at things?
Yeah, I know. I get it.
Well, no. Tell me. Why are moons called satellites?
Because they're actually a slave to a master, and that master is the planet. So they're a slave object going around the master, and so that slave object is called a satellite. Well,
then wouldn't planets going around a sun be the same thing?
No, that has to do with size and properties. Planets, are affected primarily by the sun. They orbit the sun. Satellites orbit a planet. All right? That doesn't change. There's no satellites other than man-made, human-made, I should say, satellites that are orbiting the sun. There's only, and that's something that kind of gets people a little messed up too. They hear the word satellite and they think that, we're talking about only human-made objects, and of course that's not true. We're talking about what we call the moons as well. Now, I think the original term was really meant to be disparaged because we don't want to talk about moons when we have something we call the moon. And it's really named Luna, Luna. That's the moon's name. It has a real name. And
I knew that.
Yeah, and our sun has a name too. Do you know the name of the sun?
Sol?
Yeah, S-O-L. Not S-O-U-L. I used to think,
not like Rubber Soul.
Right, it's not like that, yeah. It's not like not like one of those songs that has a lot of soul, but so that's the way that works. Now, here in this view, what we're actually seeing are only 3 moons, and that's what we're seeing. There's 3, but there's really 4 there. So, where's the 4th and what is it? Amanda, it's up to you now. It's still your turn.
Well, I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
Well, are we missing the one the furthest out? Are we missing Callisto?
I'm just asking. No. You're seeing, I have it set right at the magnification to show us if all 4 moons were visible, you'd see all 4 moons. So, which moon is missing and where is it? First of all, name the 4 Galilean satellites.
Io, Ganymede, Europa, and Callisto.
Beautiful. Excellent.
Now, we won't be able to see one because it's behind the planet.
Excellent. You got it right, which is, of course, that's sort of like the bonus question that everybody should be able to get, right? And
but now, due to the placement of where they are, I should be able to deduce which moon it is, which satellite it is? Yes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You think I should be able to tell by looking what moon is behind that's missing?
Well, you'll end up having a 50-50 chance, and that'll come clear once you find out why.
I say Io is there, and it's the closest one on the left.
Okay, do you want me to answer that, or do you want to tell what the rest of them are?
I want you to answer that.
Oh, no, you have to be able to tell me what the rest are, because I think you can do that. What's the farthest one out to the left?
Is Callisto.
Good job, that's exactly right. And what's the one off to the right, the only one we can see at the moment?
See, this is what trips me up.
Oh.
This is where I always go wrong. Okay, I'm going to say the one on the right is Ganymede.
Absolutely correct. Good job.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
So now you have a 50-50 shot. This is what I was telling you. So now you have a 50-50 chance, and so this one on the left, okay, you said is Io.
Yeah.
And if this was like the weakest link, I'd say, do you want a lifeline, or
do
you want to stick with that? I mean, you could stick with this, or you can change your answer. And I could be tripping you up too, but I'm just asking you like a little quiz.
I think. See, I don't know, and I'm doubting myself. I would think, looking at this,
yeah,
I would still think Callisto would be out further to the left. But
Okay,
I don't think it could have made it around behind Jupiter that fast since last we looked at the moons.
oh, it absolutely could have.
Yeah?
Yeah. So, and you were right. That is Callisto on the far left, and that is Ganymede on the far right. So, it's a 50-50 chance as to what this one is just to the left of Jupiter. So that's why I'm asking you now. Do you want
I still think we can see Io. I still think the closest one to the left is Io.
Okay.
I'm probably wrong, and you've hinted that I'm probably wrong.
Well, yeah, you are.
But I just didn't think.
That is
really? So Io
that's
is
Europa.
even closer than that?
No, actually, that's why I said it's going to be a 50-50, because when you see Io, it looks to be just about that far away from the planet at times. But you see, Europa could either be in the far side of Jupiter or nearer to us in its orbit, and still be a lot farther away from Jupiter than Io will be. But Io can never go more than a certain distance from Jupiter because that's the closest moon to Jupiter. So, that's why it's so hard when we're looking at these things in 2D. Okay, now when Io emerges from the other side of Jupiter, and we can actually get that information, but it looks like it's going to be a while actually. But depending, actually it may not be, because I can tell, like by looking at this, I can tell that Io's not in front of Jupiter. I don't think. I think it's actually behind Jupiter. And based on the way it moves, if it's behind Jupiter, which way is it going across Jupiter? Should it emerge from the left, or should it emerge from the right? And this goes back to a question that comes down to orbital dynamics and celestial mechanics. If you want to consider which way moons go around their planets, if you see it from the quote-unquote top of the solar system plane, all right, just so you understand, the moons and the planets tend to rotate. They don't all do this, but they tend to rotate in a counterclockwise direction. Okay, and when they rotate in a counterclockwise direction, they are actually, again, from the top plane of the orbit. If we say top, and the moons will orbit in a counterclockwise manner around the planet. They'll go around the planet in a counterclockwise orbit. So if Io is going to come out if it's behind the planet, which way is it going to come out? To the right or to the left?
To the right.
You would tend
to...
Okay, go ahead.
No, because it's counterclockwise. Okay, so to the left then.
Yeah, it's going to probably emerge from the left. Yep, it should emerge from the left. And it actually moves pretty quick, so I'm thinking at this time in the evening, we might actually have time to come back to it and watch it emerge. I'll try and keep track of that.
Okay, so, if we know how long it takes for these moons to orbit, the satellites to orbit Jupiter, is your telescope powerful enough that we can see a moon in front of the planet? Can we see like a little tiny dot, or is Jupiter just going to be so much brighter that we won't?
Yeah. Let me show you something. Okay, let's go back to this for a minute, and let me bring it down to an exposure, for instance, that we would have to use. Okay, so we see this, okay, and we can actually see, the face of Jupiter there. Now you see the great red spot? Io appears a lot smaller than the great red spot. So we may not have the ability to see it cross the face of the planet. But we might, depending on the way it crosses the planet, we might see a strange shadow type object appear where we see the planet, or the moon rather, and the shadow on the planet blended together. And it might make a little gray smudge, on our image. We don't know what we'll see for sure, but if it can happen at any time, I would expect we would see it at opposition, which is this, where the moon the Earth and Jupiter are on the same side of the sun and are directly in line with each other to the sun. So that puts Jupiter as close as possible to us. Now, so you understand, Jupiter is in the murk right now and behind light clouds. So we're actually seeing this looks kind of, it's actually not bad for being behind clouds, but I will say this. Sometimes light clouds actually help filter the image and can actually cause more detail to be seen in some cases. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but just the right amount of clouds can actually be helpful for planetary viewing, and that has to do with the massive amount of brightness that the telescope can pull in. Except, in this case, we have a telescope with a camera on it that's very crazy, I should say, with all kinds of capabilities. So we're not just constrained to see it a certain way. We can actually see it this way, or we can, brighten it to catch the moons in a heartbeat here, And like I said, we're going to come back to this, I think, later on tonight, and see if we can see Io emerging from Jupiter. How's that sound? That sound cool? I think it's going to be fun.
That sounds like a very cool plan.
Yeah. So we have to just keep that in mind, and I'll try and keep going back to Jupiter to see where it's going to be. I'm looking now, and Io's moved even a little bit more close since we were talking. So it's actually it clips along. It's the fastest moving moon. So and that's because it's closest to Jupiter. So that's pretty cool. Now,
well, I mean, to think in a few hours we can check back and see it emerging. That's pretty fast.
I think so. So
we'd have to wait a few days or something, or you get.
No, a few hours is all it takes.
So that's crazy.
It might be out. I mean, and there are some of you out there that can actually calculate when Io is going to come out, and actually can look it up and find out. Get what's called a Jupiter moon ephemeris, and figure out when it's going to come out. But right now, I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to take us to the yellow star Arcturus, and there's a reason why I'm going to that, and I'll show you once I get there. So here we go.
Let's see if the zooming noise can summon Jenny to the chat.
Haha! That's funny. Nice.
There are some rumors going around chat, and I'm getting very, very excited, so hopefully you've heard something on this.
Me?
Did Pluto possibly get a promotion?
I actually don't know. Actually, I'm hearing all kinds of conflicting reports of what Pluto's status is at the moment. Personally, I would love for it to get a promotion and get back to what it should be, but I don't know that is the case. I'm actually thinking it probably isn't, but I could be wrong. I don't mind being wrong. Oh, I was looking through the finder scope just as a satellite went zipping at high speed through this field of view here, and you didn't get to see it.
Daryl said I was going to pop out in a little under an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Daryl. Thank you very much, Daryl.
Yeah, so because I didn't know any of this at the time, I was just mad that it got demoted. If, for whatever reason, Pluto does get upgraded again to planet, won't Ceres have to become a planet?
Ceres?
Not.
I mean the dwarf planet Ceres.
Yeah, out past Neptune, isn't it in the Kuiper Belt?
No, actually, Ceres is in the asteroid belt. Yeah. So it doesn't need to get a promotion.
Asteroid belt.
Yeah, Ceres doesn't deserve a promotion. I think it's only like 580 miles across. I think, right?
Well, okay. What am I thinking then? Wasn't there something that was
maybe Eris or Eris is a Kuiper belt object, but that's Kuiper belt. See, that's the thing. Okay, now I'm gonna
no, but it was like an icy dwarf something. I don't know.
Okay, well that's gonna be Kuiper belt object.
Yeah, and I thought Ceres was out past Neptune.
No.
If you're saying it's in the asteroid belt, then that can't be what I'm thinking.
Okay. Well, I'm going to just take us to one other object to test. What I was doing was, I'm just refining my alignment here So I'm going to the star Spica, and let's see if we... Oh, command failure. What do you mean command failure? Okay, why am I getting a command failure? Hang on, let's just stop with the command failures. Oh, really? How could it say that? What did I... Oh, duh. Sorry, I picked the wrong object. Okay, here we go. Alright, let's go see now. Okay, there we go. I would call that a successful realignment. I actually tried to make sure that I get the star Spica centered because I realigned on another star, and it does a good job. So we're cool. Alright, so while we're here, let's go take a look at a couple of cool objects that I wanted to show you. Now, we'll come back to Jupiter, and Amanda just remind me in a little under an hour to go watch the reemergence of Io.
Okay.
Alright. So let's try to go
Daryl, can you remind me? You pass it on. No, I'll try to...
Okay. We're up almost as high as we can go in the observatory in terms of a telescope pointing upward. So we don't really see much now, do we? And that's something we're gonna change, I hope, here. So let's go. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna do 20 seconds at 12,800 and get us a view of this object. This will just make sure that it's in the view. It's I should have done the my 4K preview, but I didn't. That's my confidence here. I'm pretty confident it's gonna be there. And let's see. It's just a black screen now. I know, but that's gonna change. Oh, look at that, dead center. You can't beat that. Okay. All right, this guy right here.
It still amazes me. I don't care how many times I see it. I don't know how you can just, you know, aim at a black section of the sky.
I know, right?
And know exactly what to expect, and then just this overwhelming color pops out of nowhere.
I know, right?
I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Well,
never gets old.
I don't love this image yet because it's actually a little out of focus, so I have to go back and refocus. Now you might say, but you were already focused with Jupiter. How come it's a problem? Well, that's what happens sometimes.
Well, they look like little burns.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is move us over to a star that I can actually focus on.
Okay. Oh my God. 2,000 hours is 8 o'clock.
Yes.
8, 9, 10, 11. 20 after 11. Okay, so in about 40 minutes. Thank you, Daryl. I had a lot of conversion to do, and yeah.
Very good.
I think. Well, we'll check. It's 20, 20, 22.
All right. And when they focus, they just pop right in. See that? Now we're popped right in. And it looks like we're focused. So I'm going to do a quick shot here. I'm going to go to 12,800 ISO, and we're going to do it for only 13 seconds. It'll be a little dimmer, but at least I'll get to check the stars. Now, this doesn't mean that Jupiter was out of focus, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be better focus because it's closer, so to speak. At this distance, you know, focusing on Jupiter and focusing on a star shouldn't be any different whatsoever. Okay, and I'm just going to look at these to see what we got.
Yeah, sorry, my mumbling may have confused people in chat. Daryl gave me the time in Mountain, and I was converting it to Atlantic, so I specifically would know what time for me. So don't look, because it says 2100
yeah.
on your clock, So you'd think I already missed it and I don't know what I'm talking about, which is usually true, but in this instance, no, I converted it for me, so I can remind Mark.
Oh my.
In about 35 minutes from now.
Okay.
Live.
Very
regardless
good.
Where you are is when we'll go back. Sorry.
Yep, we will. I'm doing a 25-second now at 12,800 ISO. And this is of this object that we're looking at. I think it's actually going to be a little...
Spike that?
No. This is going to be the Black Eye Galaxy. But I think it's... There it is. There it is. Now, you'll see a little bit of a purple hue. That's because the weather is warmer and the telescope camera reacts a little differently. And that's called noise. But look at that. I mean, you can see really, really well that this dark area, and that's because we have no moon, so we're getting some gorgeous views of this galaxy. This is a spiral galaxy, which you can actually see the spiral arms, and that black eye, so to speak, outlines an edge of one, and that's actually the edge that's actually facing us, so we can actually see it in silhouette against the brighter galaxy behind. I know it kind of looks weird, like we're looking through a hole, but we're not. We're actually looking at dark gas and dust, dark dust actually, that's actually, in our way. And it's easier to see this if you kind of turn the image upside down in your head, all right? And then you can actually see how that's actually a dark obstruction to the galaxy behind it, okay? Because sometimes we have to do that to help ourselves see things better. It's just the way it works. Now this galaxy is 14 million light years away, and Amanda's turning her head upside down right now, going, "Wait, what?"
I did, and yeah,
it didn't work for you. Did it not work?
It's supposed to. Well,
it helps.
It's supposed to look like a. It's supposed to look like more of an obstruction somehow.
No, it's supposed to. Yes, it's supposed to look like you're actually seeing through something black that's in the foreground of your view in that galaxy, and seeing, you can't see what's behind it. In this angle, it kind of looks like, a spiral arm kind of goes out to the edge, but that black part is actually dust that's interfering with seeing the rest of the galaxy. And again, it's 14 million light years away, so and it was really kind of interesting. It was discovered all the way back in 1779, if you can believe that. And that was a long time ago.
79?
1779.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's a long time. And, when we're seeing this galaxy, we're seeing it 14 million years in the past. So if you look at a chronology and time frame of the Earth, okay, that's really kind of cool, because the light that left that galaxy, okay, literally much farther long ago than Lucy, Australopithecus afarensis, walked out of Olduvai Gorge, as a bipedal hominid, and that was 4.4 million years ago, and this is 14 million years ago we're looking at. So that light's been traveling to us all that time,
What? Okay, you know how, like, you find objects in the sky and you figure out what it is, like, was it a star dying, and what did it form? A supernova? Did it form a nebula? Like, different things.
Yeah.
How would you know?
I'm just working on something, guys, just so you know. Yep.
And I'm trying to figure out how to phrase it. That's why sometimes I'll be mid-sentence and I'll just stop talking, because I know I'm going to be phrasing this poorly, so just bear with me here. How would you... something...
Go ahead, take your time.
Okay, however old we think the universe is.
Yes.
If something from a year plus that time suddenly blinked on sometime in 2019, I don't know if that made any sense or not. How would we know that we were getting light from something that far away, as opposed to, oh, this must be a star that burnt out or something? Does that make any sense? Do you know where I'm going with this?
I'm trying to figure out where you're going.
Like, okay, say that, like, hypothetically, and this might not make sense, this example might not make sense. Okay, say
Hang on, folks, give me a break. I'm just trying to do one more thing here.
Say the Earth was, like, 7 minutes and 45 seconds years old, or whatever.
Okay.
Or maybe the sun. The sun was 7 minutes and 45 seconds old.
Alright.
Okay. So in 15 seconds, we would first see the light from the sun, because it takes 8 minutes, right?
Yep.
So now, if we think the universe is so many, billions of years old.
Yeah.
What if something from a little bit further away from that time, like a year, like say 100 years, was sending light to us, but it's so far away it hadn't got to us yet?
Okay.
The first time we see that light in the sky, how would we figure out that something that far away that we're just now seeing, as opposed to, was that a star that just died, or was that a star that just turned supernova? Like the one in Orion's belt that's gonna turn supernova or turn into a nebula.
That's right.
Like we know that's gonna happen, and it'll be like we can see it, and then it'll change or it'll turn off or whatever it's gonna happen. Like, we know those things, but if the source of the light was it's just now getting to us.
Yeah, it's like
how would we know that's what we were looking at, like, as opposed to it being something else?
Well, because we would actually see the star, all right, go through changes. We would actually watch the star suddenly get brighter. Then we'd
but no star there at all, though. Like, all of a sudden there's a new light in the sky.
Oh. Okay. Well, we'd
and it's just the light from something just now getting to us. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, the first thing that we would do, first of all, we have a pretty good survey of the sky, and if it's something that was never there before, and then it was suddenly something that was there, well, that would be pretty odd, okay? Because that's something that would actually be something we never caught, we never saw. Now, we don't see planets around stars, okay? With any telescope other than, the special processing telescopes that do the transit surveys and infrared surveys, whether on the ground or up in space. And we actually, do infrared surveys, for instance, of the sky. So we know all the infrared sources that could be something interesting. So the first thing we would do, if we saw something we didn't recognize, would be to go to past imagery from that region to see what it could be. And that's something that we would have to do right away. In fact, we would. We'd start consulting all these past Hubble images, the past images from the IRAS, the infrared satellite, the Spitzer Space Telescope, which is another infrared scope, and then, of course, in the future, the James Webb Telescope, which will be at 21 feet in diameter, which will be like the biggest mirror in space. So, that's the only way we'd know what it might be. But I'd say this, based on the way the light is managed, the way we see the light trail off, or the way the brightness changes, we could with good confidence say what it might be. For instance, there are certain stars that when they go supernova exactly the same way. All right, that's called a type 1a supernova, and that's one where a star actually ends up going supernova when it's a binary system, and where it goes supernova, and the way that happens, it happens the same way every time. So if we can gauge the brightness of a type 1a supernova anywhere in the universe, that tells us how far away that object within which that supernova occurred, namely the galaxy, tells us how far away that galaxy is, because we've managed to work out the relationship with these particular types of supernovae, which all look the same. See, there is some consistency in the universe, so that's just a little aside. But the other factor is that we don't know what we're looking at every time we look in the sky. We don't know that, that if something's new is up there, we won't know what it is. For instance, people said, "Hey, what's this thing going through our solar system?" And they examined it and said, "Wow, that's some new asteroid we've never seen before. It's actually an interstellar asteroid." And you and I talked about this on SkyTour Radio a couple times in the past. It was Oumuamua, which was the wanderer, the
messenger.
Messenger from the stars or whatever, named for the Hawaiian Oumuamua. And it was 10 times longer than it was wide. I mean, that's an odd shape. There's nothing like that in our solar system. Absolutely nothing like that. And of course, I have to qualify that by saying that we know of. But we look at all this regularity, if you think of it that way, in our solar system. We don't see that, kind of thing. We don't see these long spindles. And so that points to a process that's very specialized for the formation of this particular asteroid. How that happened is a grand mystery that we don't know. And I really think that's just crazy. I love it, So that's something that I think is a worthwhile endeavor to go after, is to find out all the different types of objects that are out there and try to look for these interstellar interlopers. Do you know they say there's up to 10 of these a year?
10 the same kind of shape and size as
No, 10 of these interstellar asteroids, up to 10 a year actually are seen here. Isn't that crazy?
Do they know where this Oumuamua is right now? Like, is it out past Neptune again, or?
No, it hasn't gotten that far, I don't believe. But it's actually it isn't even moving in the plane of our solar system. It came from far above the plane of our solar system, shot by the sun, and was whipped around the sun, and then shot out in another direction, far above the plane of our solar system, or at least above the plane. It actually, was whipped around the sun. And it went in I think a parabolic orbit, and it was basically, out of view in a very short amount of time. So I think that's pretty crazy,
It is crazy, but something like that, you would just think they'd be following it.
Oh yeah, I know, huh? Let's go check out something else.
I'm sure some people must be, but I mean, I don't know. I don't understand why that's not bigger news, or like why we don't have more answers or not.
Oh, I know, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if what I'm looking at now shows up. This is...
And sorry to anyone who that question was very, very painful to listen to. Sorry, but...
Well, no, it's okay. It's okay.
It's because, I know, like, I don't know, things don't just blink on like that, and, I don't know, it's very hypothetical, because I don't know yet. I don't know all the rules that,
That's okay.
What is and isn't possible, and that's why I like asking, because you gotta start somewhere. And...
I don't mind that at all. I think that's actually very good. Not knowing all the rules is probably a good thing. Because then
that's how ideas outside the box happen.
That's
it's
right.
Like, well, why can't we do that? I want to do that.
That's right. That's right. You're absolutely right. And that's why that's why I always say, no question is a bad question. You've heard me 1,000 times say that. And I think that the reason is because there is no bad question.
Well, think about Philae. Like, if Oumuamua is really that, unexpected, and we have nothing, really like it, why can't we throw something up there, like Philae? Like, I know that would be, like, years and years before we could make it and actually calculate landing on it and stuff, but that would be something I would definitely be after, as opposed to... And isn't there something that... I think it might have been one of the moon vehicles that they could drag little pieces of asteroid, or no, something like that. I read something like that in one of the news articles I did.
Yeah.
And they had something where they could pull an asteroid towards them and check out samples and stuff.
There have been a lot of mission plans to suggest that maybe we can learn how to harness asteroids. And that's an outer space endeavor. A regular earthly endeavor, for instance, was to get fresh water by trying to harness icebergs and bring them, for instance, to countries that were short of water, or at least take the water. So I mean, there's a lot of these, and isn't that
That's a good idea?
right?
I've never heard of that.
I know, but think about it. Isn't that effectively just as far out as trying to harness an asteroid? It just depends on your technological level. So I mean, no, it's not what you were talking about, harnessing asteroids, and I'm not avoiding that question because it's a very common thread that we hear about trying to get. Just move my chair, guys. Sorry. It's a very common thread that we hear about trying to get some type of resource from one place to another, from a place that doesn't have it to a place that does have it, and of course that is us. We don't have it, and we're trying to get something to us, and so we're at the point now where we're actually thinking about harnessing asteroids. When in the past it was harnessing an iceberg for water, now it's harnessing an asteroid for titanium or helium-3. I mean, you see, we're stepping up a little bit at a time, and it's not taking us very long. I mean, we're only 5,000 years into our truly written history from Sumerian cuneiform, a language from like 5,000 years ago, Sumeria. And being that we're only about 5,000 years into that, we're at a point where we're already seeing how to defeat the light speed limit in our universe. We can't do it yet, but we can see it. I mean, that's why it's so impressive. And that's why when I look at a galaxy like this one, and I want to know, I know some people will actually understand and know which galaxy this is. I give Daryl the first crack at it. Daryl, what is this? Just so you know.
Is it an NGC item?
Yes, it is.
Is it 4565?
It is indeed.
He had that answer
before I asked.
A long time ago.
Yeah, well,
he's that good. He usually names it before you do. So.
Well, I'm sure, because he's
Thank you, Daryl.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. They're very good. See, I sent to you guys. I sent Daryl one of our 3D printed craters. He got Tycho crater, I believe, and I did it because Daryl is incredible guy and very talented. He doesn't like when you talk about him, but too bad, Daryl. I'm giving you props here, so suck it up. He's very good to this stream. He's very good to us in general.
He's so good to me personally. He's always on hand to help me out with anything I need. So.
Yeah, he's taught you an awful lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now this galaxy is called the spindle, or I'm sorry, the needle galaxy. All right, and it is NGC 4565, and we're in the constellation of Coma Berenices, which is Coma, his hair. It's Berenice's hair, and it's the most prominent and most famous of these edge-on spirals. Now, it's not quite edge-on. It's just a little bit off the plane. We're kind of a little bit below the plane, all right? So that's why it looks like it does to us. And that dark lane you see, there's more whitish bulge below and to the right than there is at the top and to the left. And that's actually how it is in real life. So we're not seeing the top, so it's almost edge-on, but not quite. All right? So imagine a phonograph record, and I'm borrowing this analogy from Amanda for a discussion we had about Pluto and its it's a 17-degree inclined orbit. And if you imagine the record album, that's a disc of vinyl, and
like Rubber Soul.
Right, and you actually then got below it just a little bit, have it hanging from a piece of string or whatever, and got just below it. You'll see it kind of as a edge on, but not quite. You'd see the other side if you could see the other side, and if it had a central bulge, that central bulge would be more prominent because you're seeing more of the bottom than the top. So that's what we're seeing here, and it's really cool. Now this is 39 million light years away. I mean, that is not close by. However, if the string theory propulsion concepts in our far future prove valid, it's very possible that we will be able to actually get to objects like this in a much more realistic manner. It just seems incredibly crazy to think about that now, just like it's incredibly crazy to get to the nearest star. But we see that one in probably about 150 years. And that's not how long it's going to take us. It will only take us about a week and a half to get there. And that, of course, is because we can warp space if we can harness the energy. And I've mentioned this before in the stream. To go long distances, we need to harness energy, and we need to then take that energy and create this warp bubble around our ship. This is a concept that some of you know and have heard me talk about, both here and on SkyTour Radio and on a whole bunch of other shows that I've done. And you've heard me talk about it. It's called the Alcubierre drive. That's Alcubierre.
I knew that one. Oh, I was hoping you were going to ask me that one.
Oh, well, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Don't worry, I can ask you.
Watch, this is going to backfire on me.
It is not going to backfire at all.
I was doing well the other night, and I was thinking, oh, yay, he's giving me, like, really easy questions that he knows I know. And then he asked me a question, I'm like, oh, what episode was that on? I think I missed it.
Oh, no. You see, you don't, here's the thing, there's no problem, okay, when you get asked questions and you don't know the answer, guess what? I don't know all the answers either, and I don't profess to. Those things that I don't know, I learn about. And the first time you think that you've learned it all, that's your first mistake. And I'll be honest with all of you guys out there. I used to be what people might term a know-it-all. A very annoying person who would just say, yeah, I know, but not really know. And it didn't take many embarrassing, oh yeah, then what is it, responses before I was put in my place, and I took 10 steps back and said, okay, I'm going about this whole knowledge thing the wrong way. When someone asks me a question I don't know, the first thing I say in my head is, oh, I don't know the answer to this. I no longer say, oh, I'll make something up, or I'll just answer in a way that makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't do that. All right, I answer with what I know, and if what I know is wrong, I'm okay with that. I'd like to be educated. I too can be wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong, and that's okay with me, So that said, when guys like Daryl come in and say something, I'll say the wrong thing. Like the other night on our radio show, I told Amanda we were going to start off with this exoplanet for our exoplanet roundup. We always have one or two, two primarily, and we had one this week. And I said, instead of the other exoplanet, I'm going to talk about the Kilauea volcanic eruption. And she said, oh yeah, great idea. That's got a lot to do with the Earth. That's important. And she was right. And I did my exoplanet, and then I launched right into our weekly topic, which was like, okay, that's not right. And Amanda said, hang on, you were going to talk about Kilauea. And I went, oh, you're right. So you see, there are times when even, when I don't even know what I'm, doing in the right order and so forth. And she was right to interrupt me and tell me to get onto it. So I did. And I thought that discussion was good. Then for the rest of the time, we answered listener questions over the last couple of weeks. And we still have more to go. But anyway, so that said, I'm just doing all this talking so you can enjoy the spindle or the needle galaxy right here. And I will take us to another one. How much time we have for Io?
About 14 minutes.
Okay. 14 minutes, Captain. Captain, in 14 minutes, Io's going to show up again. Scotty, you've got to get us there. If you don't, we'll die. Something like that. All right, so let me just do this. Yeah, I think this is going to be really, really fun to watch it reemerge. All right, I'm gonna go look at this. I'm gonna look at this. I'm gonna check it myself as well. I'm just gonna go check here and see how far.
Well, maybe we could go a few minutes early and actually see the first little peekaboo.
Oh,
or is that what happens in 13 minutes?
Yeah, it's actually, it's very close already. So I don't know if I want to miss it.
If you want,
I tell you what.
Go back now, I don't think anyone's going to be too opposed. And
no, not at all. But I tell you one thing. If we go back now, there's a couple things. Now Jupiter is higher in the sky. So what the heck? Let's just go back to Jupiter. We can always go galaxy hunting in a little while, right?
Yeah.
There we go.
And actually, because Daryl told me about it earlier, that Jupiter is in opposition. That's the only reason I mentioned it to you, as if I knew these things myself, right? But I went out after dinner just as it was getting kind of dusky.
Yeah.
And I took my phone, and I have that Sky Map app.
Yep.
So I put it on, and I found it, and it was way too low, and it was behind a whole pile of trees, so I couldn't see it. And then I didn't go to look for it again yet.
Oh, that's too bad.
Because I filmed a raccoon. He was out way early, and it was bright, so I figured I'd get some good footage so everyone could see him.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went out a second time.
Yeah.
And he ran towards me like a cat or a dog. But then I got nervous and I ran into the house.
Run away!
Well,
run away!
I did.
Run away! Run away!
Even if he wants to cuddle, those little claws are like razors. So, you know, he wasn't running after me like he had rabies. It was kind of like,
hey, come here! I want to play! I want to play! I want to play! Where you going? Come on! Boy, these humans. That way?
But, well, it might have been, but to me, okay, yes, I know it's a wild animal, but
yeah,
he's fluffy and cute, and instinct would be reach out and pet him, and that's how I'm gonna get bit. That's how I'm gonna end up in the hospital with stitches.
Man, why didn't I have your freaking? Why didn't I have that common sense when the skunk came into my garage?
Oh, you loved him.
I did, and he loved me. All right, I'm not kidding. You think I should tell the story, or should I just like roll past it?
I love this story.
All right. Well, somebody heard it before.
Yeah, that's okay. It's a good story.
Okay. Well, we're waiting for Io anyway. And one of the things that I do is I work for the Navy. I do a lot of special models for the Navy in the submarine world of it, especially. So I was working on this 8-foot model of the Seawolf submarine, which is the precursor to the Virginia class, which is out now. And the Seawolf was nice and big model. I'm sanding it down and doing something called wet sanding, getting all the little imperfections out with like spraying it with water and then sanding and getting this slurry of paint and sandpaper going. And it really does change your finish tremendously to a professional finish from really lousy potential finish. Well, anyway, as I'm doing that, and it was around 4:30 in the afternoon in the summer, maybe 5 o'clock or 5:30, and I look up at the door, and I think I see a cat out of the corner of my eye. So I look at it and say, hey, where'd you come from? And it wags its tail, and I'm thinking, wait, is that a cat? No, that's the skunk. And he comes right in, seemingly not paying any attention to me. And I'm standing behind a little table on which I'm sanding the submarine. And he walks in, and I'm talking to him. I go, hey, little guy, don't you think you want to, like, go away? Kind of a thing. And he comes over to me, and he comes over to my left foot. He sniffs my left foot, and believe me, all I could see was that fluffy tail. And it's twitching, back and forth. I'm thinking, And I thought, all right, you know what? If I get sprayed, it'll just be the neatest interaction, and I can tell the story of how I got sprayed by this skunk that walked in and was sniffing my foot. So I was thinking, all right, if I'm gonna get sprayed, I'm gonna get sprayed. I'm just gonna knock down the brightness just a little more here, just a little more. And what happened was, he was sitting there, and as I looking at him, he's sniffing my foot, like I said. Then he squats, he gets down on his haunches like a sphinx, and he's just sitting there, and he's looking around. I mean, I'm thinking, uh-oh, he doesn't know I'm a human. So I said, okay, this is the part where I get sprayed, and I move my right foot to kind of slide it over to the right a little, my left foot where he's kind of looking, and sitting next to, I slide slowly toward me, and he just looks at my foot, then he looks up at me, and I wave at him. I go, hey, little guy, and I close my eyes really tight, waiting for that spray of, that was going to hit me. Never did. I'm looking down at him, and I'm going, how you doing down there? Are you okay? And now, you got to understand, I was very timid, a lot more than he was. And the next thing I know, he's getting up, and he's walking around, going in between my legs, goes over to my right foot. Then he sits down on the right, and then he comes back over to the left. And I've stopped work now. It had to be 20 minutes. I just stood there frozen thinking I'm about to get sprayed. I'm about to get sprayed. And then something else happened. Something came over me that was like a really strange, like a peace almost. And what I did was I squatted down very slowly. And I was in a squatting position, literally about 18 inches from this little guy's face. And more importantly, about 19 or 20 inches from that big fluffy tail, which was sticking straight up at that point, because he was a little flustered and it was twitching. And I just closed my eyes really tight, afraid that he was gonna, spray me. So as he ended up, as I got down there, I looked at him, and for all the world, he was a very well-kept skunk. He looked like he'd been grooming and grooming himself very carefully. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out, put my hand, held it in the air for a couple seconds. He looked up at it. I let him sniff my hand. Okay, I had the palm, had my fingers out, palm facing him. Okay, and I just dropped it low. And I should have had the back of my hand to him, but I figured if I was going to get bit, I'd rather get bit on the palm of my hand than the back of my hand, where I felt like it was going to hurt more or something. So anyway, I do this. I reach down and I quickly just run my fingers across his back very slowly, like I'm scratching his back. And then I pulled my hand away. All right. Now this is the long version of the short version I always tell. Right. And then I thought, holy Christ, I'm gonna be sprayed now for sure. And I slowly brought my fingers up because I don't know. It's like a train wreck. You gotta now smell your fingers to see if you smell like skunk. And I did, and I was like, oh, this is disgusting. I don't know why I did this, but I did it again. And
yeah, you never told us that part of the story.
No,
it's hilarious.
It's disgusting. You don't want to, it's like, hey, smell my finger, that kind of thing. But frankly, as I did it, and watch for Io, by the way. Io is now emerged from the side of Jupiter, and we should be able to see it. Let me see. I'll put a pause in the story for 1 second. I'm going to drop us down a little bit more, just to the fringe, like this. Let's see if we can still see Moon. We should start to see a little bump. I see
from the left.
I see a bump. I see a little bump. Do you see it?
I don't know. I think I do, but maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just imagining I do.
No, I do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a little exposure real quick. Don't worry. It's going to be a 500th of a second. And then we're going to come back to it and look at this exposure real fast to see if this shows us anything. And then we'll pop back. Okay, we didn't catch it the best way. Okay, back to our live view of Jupiter's moon Io emerging.
Okay, Daryl's saying he thinks he sees it at about 8 o'clock.
Exactly.
Would you agree?
I do. That's exactly what I see.
That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
But again, it looks so kind of...
Yeah. We're watching Io emerge from the far side of Jupiter. Io is Jupiter's closest moon. And Io is a very sulfur-heavy location and moon. And we see it. I'm starting to see it much more distinctly now. It's showing up even better. You can start to see it.
I'm glad we came early because
yeah,
we have about 3 minutes until it's 22.
Yeah,
or 20 after. So
yeah, I see it right now. I can actually see.
I think I do too.
Yeah, you can actually, if you look at the other moon just to its left, which is Europa, and you go back. Yeah, and if you go back, you can actually see in the momentary good seeing. You can actually see it. Now Jupiter's still kind of low, and we're still seeing it through clouds, but nevertheless. We can actually see Io coming out, and it's becoming more and more distinct. Now you can see a definite bump around 8 o'clock on Jupiter, and that bump is Io emerging from the bright disk. And we are necessarily overexposed just a little, because we have to be, to be able to show you the moons as well. And I've kind of got it at that magic location where it's not fully overexposed, and it's not something that exposes Jupiter very well. But Europa is very bright, and you can see how dim that is right in the center of the screen. So there's Io coming across, and I think you can see, and you can see by the shakiness of the image that we're getting some air currents. You know, we're getting some air currents right now, which are.
That's what I mean. That kind of wobbling around it. That's why I was like, do I really see it, or is it wishful thinking and it's just distortion? But
it's not.
I think I see it, and yeah.
Yeah. I see it. I'm sure other people could see it now.
Yeah, and again, like what we were saying, 8 o'clock. If Jupiter was a clock,
look now.
Where the 8 where the 8 would be, is where we think we see this moon.
Not what we think. It's definitive. You can actually see it in moments of good seeing. You can actually see it separate from the planet. It's separated from the planet now.
Okay, I don't see it separated. And I'm looking on your screen on Skype, not on YouTube.
Yeah, I know. I can definitely see in moments of good seeing. I can see the separation.
Moments of good seeing? Is that like a phrase?
Yes, it's see we crazy astronomers have various ways of saying what the sky quality is. All right, and those two phrases are seeing and transparency. Now, when I was working in the big observatory, doing parallax studies, that is, studies of nearby stars, I had to gauge the seeing and transparency, and so seeing, for instance, is a measure of how the air is treating the stellar images. Okay, if the air is shaky, then you'll see a definitive, shimmering like we do here in Jupiter. Again, it's low in the sky, it's also through clouds. But Io is now clearly separate with moments of good seeing where the stability of the sky is momentarily better. And you can actually see Io now emerging very clearly in that case. And transparency basically says, well, but is it clear? Well, the transparency is bad because we're seeing it through clouds. And the seeing is, not good because we're seeing it somewhat low in the sky. All right, so it's a question of quality of the air and the clarity of the air, the clarity of the sky. Okay, now do you see it? You should be able to see it totally separate now.
I don't know. I see it. I see it, but
yeah, I can see a definitive separation. Again, you gotta wait for those moments of good seeing.
Yeah.
But look at that. That's pretty cool. And this is what I like about SkyTour LiveStream. We actually get to see some really cool things. We're seeing Jupiter at opposition, and we're also watching and recording for all time the emergence of Io from the backside of the planet. Now, what's interesting is Jupiter is many millions of miles away, yet we're seeing in real time, we're seeing the movement of the moons around Jupiter. Now, many people, when they go back, and even you yourself, Amanda, you were surprised that we would see this happen in such a short time. You thought it'd have to be like over days or whatever, because you don't have a sense of time for how long it takes moons, for instance, to go around the planet. That's something that's not your fault, but it's just that you don't have the sense for that because you don't have that familiarity with the planets to be able to say, okay, I know how long it takes these moons to go around Jupiter, and so forth, and that's okay. But that's why I try to fill in those gaps, as needed. Okay. So there you go, folks. Look at there. You can see Io now is even more separate, even in the time we were talking. Now, the way that works, it's orbital dynamics. What that means is, the planet has a particular gravitational field, and if something was not moving over Jupiter, then it would end up getting pulled into Jupiter. But if it had some type of motion that takes it along the direction, say, of Jupiter's orbit, that is to say, along the direction of Jupiter's rotation, all right, that is to say, it moves parallel to the surface or the cloud tops of Jupiter at any time, If it can move fast enough, then it will have a stable orbit and go into a circular orbit around the planet. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing how Io is doing that. Now, you would think that if we're seeing it on a regular planar level, that is to say we're looking right down the solar system plane, then you would say, well, how come Io is below the center of the planet? Shouldn't it be emerging right in the middle? Why is it emerging kind of below? Well, what's going on there? And the answer is that all the planets are along the ecliptic, that is along that plane of our solar system. But there's enough variation in that plane and that elevation of the planets above or below the plane that you'll see them just a little bit different. And that's why we see it like this. All right. And that's something that's, fascinating to me because, they aren't all in a straight line. And whenever you see the Galilean moons or the Galilean satellites around Jupiter, you will often see that they're not in a perfectly straight line. And that's because they each have their own inclination or angle in their orbit to the main planet and to the solar system plane. So that's what we watch here and see. And now I think you can now see, Amanda, that Io is separate completely from the planet. You see it?
I do, but it still looks so close to me that I still wouldn't consider it separate.
Really? I see darkness between it. I see darkness between the planet and the moon now.
Well, in Good Seeing? Sometimes It does look like a little line, but I mean, it still looks so close that...
Yep, you're right. I'm glad you say that because you actually said, in Good Seeing, we actually see it, yeah. And that's true.
I was hoping to get the right term, yeah.
You did. And you could have used transparency tonight because we're actually looking at it, like I said, through some light clouds. So.
Okay, so I'm not sure about Jupiter, but I think it was Saturn. Okay. Sometimes when one of the moons goes around Saturn, like some of the edge kind of bulges out. Can we see that happening in real time with your telescope, or would that take days? Or is it just too far away to actually see such a gradual thing?
We actually saw that here. We saw how a little edge of Jupiter seemed to bulge out a little bit just before Io made itself distinct and separate from the planet.
I thought that was Io itself we were looking at, that little bump.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so, but I don't know what you're asking then, I guess.
No, didn't you say... I thought it was Saturn. Maybe it does it for a few different planets, but when one of the moons of Saturn goes around Saturn...
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the gravity, maybe, but it kind of makes it like more like an egg shape than a round shape.
Yes. Okay.
And I don't know if it happens on Jupiter. Okay.
It does.
Can we see that with your telescope, or is it too big?
No. The effect is too small to be noticed by any telescope on Earth, not even the Hubble. Okay.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Now, what you're talking about is tidal interactions. That is to say, the gravitational interactions on the moon that's going around this planet. And for instance, Enceladus, that's Saturn, that's the moon you're talking about. Enceladus has these geysers which go shooting up from the south pole of Enceladus. And you say, well, wait, why geysers? Why now? What's going on? Well, what's happening is Enceladus is in a particular, it's called a resonance with another moon called Dione around Saturn. And what that does is it pulls Enceladus's orbit to be a little bit elliptical, not quite circular. And remember, we talked about how Jupiter, this very planet, will pull the asteroids in the asteroid belt a little bit out as it goes past them, as it's much farther beyond them. But its gravity gently tugs them a little bit farther out in their orbit, pulling them a little bit farther away from the sun as it goes around. Then as it goes past them, and they relax back into their original orbit. Well, in the same way, Saturn and Jupiter tug on the nearby moons. Okay, Io is just one of those that happens to have that happen as well. And what will happen is Jupiter will tug on Io, who is now fully emerged from Jupiter. You can see it. And it causes it to get oblate and be squished and pulled in little ways. And what that does is that causes friction internally in Io, massive amounts. And that's why Io is actually a volcanic moon. It has no atmosphere. Okay, let's be clear. The atmosphere that it does have is actually a tenuous atmosphere that was the result of all these sulfur eruptions off of Io, because Io's got a lot of sulfur. And there's sort of like a donut shape around Jupiter that consists of a lot of sulfur atoms and some sodium as well. And it's called a torus, and it actually is something we can see from the Earth because it's so prominent. We can't see it with the telescope because we don't have the right we don't have the right spectral system to be able to see those atoms. But that said, going back to Enceladus, as it goes around Saturn, its orbit has been pulled a little bit elongated because of Dione. And they're in what's called a resonance, so that as Enceladus goes around, each time it hits a magic spot where Dione affects it. And it continuously tugs it, lets it go, tugs it, lets it go, tugs it, lets it go. When it does that, okay, what happens is that causes Saturn to differentially pull on Enceladus, and causes Enceladus to kind of squish and go oblate a little bit, and then come back to relatively spherical. Squish and go oblate, come back to relatively spherical. And that process is what causes the Enceladine geysers that we see, and causes a tremendous amount of heat to be built up in that small 300-mile diameter moon. Okay, now you can see Io totally separate. Correct?
Yeah.
All right, there you go. All right, now let's just talk about this for a minute more. I just want to say, let's just...
So hold on, how far out are we gonna see? Like,
what do you mean, how far out?
Like, no, not how far out. How? Like, I mean, could we watch this all night and just watch it go right across the sky? Like,
well, you'd only see it. We're seeing. Remember, it's in a circular orbit, so we're gonna see it moving around Jupiter. So it's gonna come out a certain distance and then start going back the other way. And that other way it's gonna go is gonna come back a little bit higher than where it came out from, because we're looking at it from just below the plane of its orbit around Jupiter. Okay. So. Yeah,
but I mean, how far left is it going to go before it starts swinging back right, if that makes sense?
Yeah, well, we can look up to find out how many arc minutes it'll be, but it'll be, I'm not sure actually. Somebody,
I mean, like, usually when we look at it,
someone in chat might know.
Usually when we look at it, like, you can see all 4 Galilean moons pretty spaced out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to start going around Jupiter now, because I've never seen it that close before.
Well, that's because
you know what I mean. So
it's emerging. It's emerging from the dark side, from the backside of Jupiter.
No, I know, but that's what I mean. How big is that separation going to go before?
Now, how far away from Jupiter is it going to get? Is what you're asking. Like, how far away? How far to the left is it going to go before it starts going back to the right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because
well, like I said,
because Ganymede's the next one over on the left, right? No, sorry, Europa.
That's correct. Good for you.
Europa. Because it's never gonna look to us like Io is more to the left than Europa.
That's right. Just gonna do a...
So that's what I mean. Like, if we watch this all night, we would see it get to where it usually is. No, see, I can't say usually is because it's constantly moving, but you know what I mean? Oh, it's so hard to phrase when I don't know the right terminology.
Well, first of all, just know...
How far left is it going to get before it starts going right? It's the most basic...
I don't know. We can't say that it's going to be as far as Europa's distance now, because Europa is being seen in, along the line of sight, and Europa can be... Europa is going to go all the way, to the right or to the left more, because it depends which side of Europa's orbit we're on when we're seeing it here. So we have to watch, and figure it out, and then we can get the maximum distance away from the planet, yes, and that's published data. I don't know that offhand, but we can get how far away Io is going to get from the planet. We can get that, in a 5-minute search online.
See, that's why these questions are so difficult, because I can't ask just about Io's orbit, because all the other orbits are going to be affected, and like so many other factors are affecting it, that it's not just such an easy answer.
Yeah, that's right. You're correct. It's not just an easy answer.
It would just be easier just to watch all night and see for myself what happens.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree with that.
I know, but we're gonna do time limits. I know.
Oh, no, it's okay. Let me just try and drop us down here. I want to do a different view here of Jupiter, just to kind of get a better perspective here. Just a minute. Yeah, now you can see very clearly. Now you can see how much farther it's come out in the time we've been talking. See, it was already it was all the way on the other side, and now it's all the way on, fully clear of that. And the reason it's fully clear of that is, of course, because it's moving, and we've actually seen an astronomical object that's actually moving. When we look at the stars, they don't seem to move. Nothing seems to change, except it's a very dynamic solar system. And you just have to get used to the time scales of the solar system to see why. And that's what we're seeing here, is a tremendous time scale difference, But now that we have all four of them out, let's take a look. If you look here, you can see if we drew a line through from Callisto on the left, through Europa, and to Ganymede, you can actually see that, even going from Callisto to Ganymede, Europa would be above it and Io would be below it. You see? So they're not perfectly on the plane of the ecliptic either, that is the solar system plane. They're above or below with little tiny inclinations of their own, and that has to do with how they settled out after formation. And don't forget, much closer to Jupiter, there's also a very, very dark ring, just like Saturn, but we cannot see it because it is so dark. It can only be seen when you're looking at it from behind, with the sun between you and the ring. And of course, we are never afforded that view from here, which is unfortunate. So there, I think that was a fun time. I thought that was pretty fun, didn't you?
I think it's unreal that, I don't know, okay, and you might not know these numbers offhand. How much closer is Io to Jupiter than Mercury is to our sun?
Oh, well, Io is a lot closer to Jupiter than Mercury is. Mercury... Yeah,
it must be, because we're seeing this in live time, whereas you'd have to watch like 88 days for Mercury, right?
Very good. That's right. That's how long it takes. Yep. It doesn't take that long.
For a full orbit, we'd only need like 44 days to see it either go behind or come back from, right?
That's right. That's right. Or even less, because it depends where it is in its orbit. The only way it would take that long, it would actually be a quarter of that time, quarter of the 88. So it's only like 22 days, right? Because
at the
most it'd be 22 days to see it go behind or in front of the sun.
And I should be Googling this myself rather than asking you, because you probably don't have these stats on hand anyway, but like Io must take like, I don't know, less than a day.
Oh,
do we know how long
it takes for Io to go around?
Yeah.
Actually, I don't have Io's orbital period on hand, but
because like we don't know what time it kind of went behind Jupiter.
No, we don't. I mean, we could find that out again very easily.
So like, I'm wondering, like, was it earlier today? Was it,
Yes, it was.
Did we just happen to time it just that it happened to be emerging tonight, or?
It just so happened that it was in this good, this fortunate position for us tonight. Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. Now, if
I
you'll
mean,
notice,
I don't know.
at the beginning of our
It being
stream...
in opposition has nothing to do with it. This is just luck that we happen to see Io emerging.
Yeah, we got lucky. But I can tell you this. One thing you'll notice is that the Great Red Spot, you look now where we're seeing. Remember we were talking about the Great Red Spot? Where was it? Where was it when we talked about it? And where is it now?
I don't know. Was it not kind of a little?
It was left of center, wasn't it? And just a little below, right?
Kind of a little below where Io is now.
Yeah, and it was left of center. Mm-hmm. And now look where it is. It's almost going around the planet to the right. We're witnessing the rotation of Jupiter as well, folks, and that's pretty incredible as well. See? I think that's pretty cool. I'm sorry. It's just a neat thing, and I'm actually gonna take a short little video of this, and I'll tell you why. Now it's gonna be a little bit larger, but see what I can do is the video shooting is at 30 frames per second, and I'm gonna shoot this short video, and right now it's gonna be about 10 seconds, so that's 300 frames, and I'll let it go to 20 seconds, and that's gonna be 600 frames of Jupiter. And what I can do is, I'm going to turn it off now, what I can do is take those frames and basically stack them like we do for astronomical objects. And each frame of the video is going to be used for the purposes of making a very, very precise image of Jupiter. So take a look at it here, how we see it here. Okay. And I'm going to try and...
Look at the distance now.
Oh, I know, huh? You don't see the moons now, though.
I can see 2 little moons.
You do?
I thought I did. What am I looking at then?
Well, right now.
I thought I could see... Yeah. Oh, not now.
Okay, well, let's move up
when
here.
It was closer, I thought I could see Io and Europa. I don't see them now.
Okay, well, I haven't changed anything yet. To see them, we have to kind of go a little bit brighter. Okay. Okay, so that's probably like the minimum.
Yeah, I can't. Oh.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have to go a little bit bigger. See, so that's about the minimum. That's cool, huh?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Look at the distance between it now.
Yeah, now it's
that's
obvious.
Significance, yeah.
Yeah. So you see, we're having a lot of fun trying to figure these things out. But I'm going to take that video so you know, and I'm going to go and use my the software here to take and improve on that picture of that video of Jupiter and make it one final image that is going to be a stack of 600 different frames, and we'll see how it looks. If anything, it's going to be a lot nicer, and it'll be very, very cool. I've done this before, and it's made for things like Jupiter, so it'll be very, very nice. Well, good. We got to watch Io merge together. I'm very happy about that.
And thank you to John. The orbital period is 42 hours.
Yeah.
So that's what I was thinking. We could probably watch this every night. We could probably watch it go behind and come back if we timed it right.
Exactly.
We could probably do this anytime we want it. That's crazy.
Yeah, see, isn't that neat? And that's exactly. And thank you, by the way, for looking that up for me. Believe it or not, I know that summer's approaching, but I'm actually cold in my dome because I'm just sort of standing around. But I'm gonna...
tell them who tried to take over.
Oh, yeah. Well, today I come out to the dome, and thank you for reminding me of that, Amanda. Now I gotta feel like I gotta look behind me and rub my shoulders. I came back out and I felt something hit. I came into the dome, and as I entered the dome, I felt something fall from the ceiling and hit me on the head, and I thought it was a drop of water because there was some moisture on the lip of the dome. And when I raised up the shutters, something hit me in the top of the head, and I just brushed it off, and then I looked down at the floor and I saw this hornet running around, and I was like, oh no, and I looked straight up into the face of a hornet's nest. I'm like, ah! And I looked to the other side, and there was another identical hornet nest with hornets in it. I was like, ah! You know, it's like a double scream. So I went and I got the hornet killer. Believe it or not, hornets are the only creatures that I kill. I don't kill anything. I don't. And you can ask anyone who knows me. I will not kill any creatures because I just don't. You know, I have a problem with that. I figure it took so long for them to evolve. I don't think it's fair to kill them. But hornets, you know, there's a faint possibility that there's some allergy there. So I tend to kill them, and I feel bad doing it, believe it or not.
What about bees and wasps? Do you kill them?
Honeybees I do not kill. Bumblebees I do not kill, because bumblebee stings aren't actually. I don't think bumblebees actually sting, but I don't kill bumblebees and honeybees, but wasps and yellow jackets especially. I'm ruthless on the yellow jackets because they are ruthless on you. You know, so I'm going to another object right now. By the way, here we go.
Nice.
Go ahead.
Okay. I thought you were cold and you were going in.
I am cold, but come on, you guys come here and
but we
gotta do some objects, man. We gotta check these things out. I want to show you some things.
And I hope everybody else isn't itching and squirming right now.
Oh, I was squirming because like my head rubs up against the dome at certain points, and so I get a little bit like, crazy. But I did come out here and I totally went through this like with a fine-tooth comb, so I'm not worried that there's anything in my way right now. I'm gonna go to 4K mode here just for a moment to see how close I am for this object I'm looking for.
And Codus, hi, welcome back. Mark's not processing the frames he took right now, but when he does, that little video you took, Mark, when you stack them, you'll be putting them in our Facebook group.
I will indeed. I'll show you what the final process is. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a little too time consuming right now, and we're going to try to get some more objects, but all the pictures he takes and processing he does do will be up on the SkyTour LiveStream with Mark D'Antonio Facebook group.
Yeah,
I know you're already a member, but please, I'll throw the link in chat. Anyone who wants to join, please do.
Awesome. I don't know how many of you are watching right now, but I get a number of people watching after the fact anyway. But
yeah, of course, the videos will be up and saved here if there's a part you want to replay or whatever. But it's nice to see the final product done on Facebook.
Yes, indeed.
And some of the raw images he'll also put up there. And if you guys want to take a shot at playing around with them, by all means.
That's right. When I put them up there, you get a chance to look at them and play with them too. Yep.
Yeah, you can download them yourselves. There's no.
Yep. You can see some
whatever there
reddish artifacts in this image. This is the Sombrero galaxy. I'm going to take another one, and I'm going to do it at 25 seconds for 10,000 ISO. ISO was a sensitivity, and for those that know what I'm talking about, bear with me here. The sensitivity of cameras was something that was determined a long time ago, and it became a standard. And the standard that we know now as ISO used to be called ASA. Okay, and the ISO is the that sensitivity standard that starts out at like 50, then goes to 100. Okay, or 64 rather than 100, then 200, 400. 800 and 600 actually when you go digital, and that is something that it keeps going up, and this camera goes to 409,000 ISO, and it's really quite a wonderful camera chip, quite an expensive camera chip, but I couldn't bring this to you if I didn't get out there and spend the money, unfortunately. But I think it's actually important, because how else would you see the Sombrero galaxy here? By looking up a picture, and we're doing it live, man. We're checking it out as we speak. I like it. This is called the Sombrero galaxy, as you know, and it's 28 million light years away. So it's a 28 million year old train of light that we're looking at right now. I mean, think about that. That's just crazy. And it was discovered in 1767 by a guy named Pierre McCain. And McCain has a galaxy named after him, the McCain's galaxy. And Charles Messier, also the creator and cataloger of the Messier catalog, he also noticed it, and he recognized it and called it M104. All right, and it's also, from its NGC number, the new general catalog number. The catalog gets 4594, the Sombrero galaxy. It's visible in a small scope if you want to look for it. And if I were to basically go take like a 20-minute exposure of this, it would actually look amazingly more detailed, and that bulge you see in the center where you see just a hint of brightness there, that would balloon up to the top and actually envelop that star that you see just above. It would actually envelop that star. So there's a lot more to this galaxy than we're actually seeing here in this amount of time, but we're seeing it here in this amount of time, and that's the magic. So this is a beautiful galaxy, and I really love it. My alignment has been just right on the money tonight, and that's good, because I did have to change the alignment. It wasn't quite right. But let's now go to a couple of other favorites that are Messier objects. All right, and we're going to go there now. We're going to go to this next one, and I will tell you what it is in a moment. I always like to keep the suspense going a little bit, see if anyone can tell me what it is. I don't know. It's just my game I play. I guess I'm crazy that way. What can I tell you?
I like games.
Awesome. Yes, you do. You play Jeopardy a lot with Bill and Keith, right? You play.
That was Family Feud.
Or Family Feud, yeah.
I might actually have a chance in Jeopardy if the right category came along.
I bet you would.
Family Feud is ridiculous. That game is so rigged. Oh my gosh.
Oh, come on.
I give the best answers. They're never up there. I don't know who these 100 people are that they're asking, but...
That's funny.
Yeah, I rack up a lot of strikes in that game.
Alright, I'm doing an exposure of this object that I haven't told you about yet. It's 25 seconds at 10,000 ISO. And the sensitivities, like I was talking about earlier, they used to go up to 400, and that was considered high way back when, and there was only black and white, and that was a film called Tri-X, Tri-X. Tri-X was a very fast film when we actually used film, and Tri-X is actually a that acetate film. You can't get this film anymore unless it's just a special type order. But this right here, we're actually looking at a couple of galaxies, right? And we're seeing Messier 65 here in the center, and to its left, I believe we're looking at Messier 66 as well. And the difference is Messier 65, the one that we're seeing here, is actually 42 million light years away. All right, and it's also got a dark lane of dust, which I'm going to see if we can see. I'm showing both galaxies right now, but let's just zoom in. All right, for a bit, and now you can actually see some of the spirally structure in there. It's it's a little bit subtle in this particular galaxy. And now if we just move over to Messier 66 right now, let's just slide over there. So I'm going to go back to the live view for a second, and then let's just go over to Messier 65, which is right next to it. And here we come. And I'll have to do another exposure.
See, I'd have to see them a lot closer and in color to figure out what they were. I think Daryl, well, most likely he is putting the right answer down now, but I don't know which 2/3 of the Leo triple we're looking at.
Well, we're looking at 65 and 66, so he's right. The other one that we're going to look at is NGC 3628, which I believe is the third.
Oh yeah, it had a weird. I don't remember exactly what we're looking at, but I remember this conversation. And that too, I was like, why wouldn't the next one be the next number sequentially? Why is this like totally different catalog? And...
Yep, it's not really. It has to do with kind of when they were seen. Now this galaxy is pretty interesting, by the way, because you're looking at a galaxy kind of from above or below the plane, not easy to know when looking out in space, and it's a spiral, and you can see those knots in the arms of the spiral that we're looking at here, those dark splotches, we should say. Those dark splotches are areas where there's a lot of dust. And that dust is an area where stars are forming. Those are, stars form in the spiral arms of galaxies, and then they migrate away. And that's what we're looking at here. Now, this particular galaxy is 37 million light years away. And at 37 million light years, okay, that is it's a whopping distance, okay? And, at 37 million light years, this one, though, is still closer to us than the previous M65, which is 42 million light years away. So that means that because they look different in size, you would think that the closer one was bigger, but in fact, this one is smaller than M65, it seems like. But when you actually work it out and you do a longer exposure, you can see that they're actually more or less similar in size, which means that M65 is probably a lot bigger than M66, which is the one we're seeing here. So you work these things out, right? So now let's go look at the rest of this triple that we talked about, and that's NGC 3628, which is above both of these galaxies we just saw. It's sort of like a triangle. Actually, any 3 points make a triangle. So here we go. We're moving up.
Not 3 points in a line.
It's a very shallow triangle. But you're right. If it's right in a line, then of course. Yeah. All right. And now this is NGC 3628. I'm confident it'll be there. We're just going to take a 25-second exposure at 10,000 ISO and see what we get. So this galaxy that we're about to look at should be right there in the center, I would suspect. This galaxy is an interesting one because it's got this weird, a little bit of a weird shape to it that may or may not show up. And it's 35 million light years away. So you see all these galaxies are sort of around, 37, 35, 42. They're all kind of about the same relative distance from each other, from us, and from each other and us. Now this galaxy is a lot fainter, actually. So I'm using 10,000 ISO when I should probably be using 16,000. But you can see that dark lane. And this galaxy is actually a little bit lower surface brightness, it's called, than the others. But nevertheless, at 35 million light years away, it's really it's quite an interesting galaxy, And then we had this galaxy here. Let's see. Let me just go back to this view here. So that's 3628, which is 35 million light years away. This here is the galaxy M66, and that's the one that's 37 million light years away. And look at that. That's just incredible. That I just love that knottiness in the arms. Okay, that's M66. And what an incredible detail that we're seeing there. Now,
can we zoom in?
Well, that
on,
is,
I guess, the middle star.
Oh, well, that's not a star. That's actually the central bulge in this galaxy.
Okay.
And it looks stellar. That is like a star. Only because we're looking at it from such a long distance away. We can't see that it's a galactic bulge like our galaxy has a galactic bulge. A longer exposure with a little more quality would actually show that. But in the SkyTour LiveStream, we don't really have the ability to do that too much, because we don't have people that are going to hang around for hours on end to wait for one singular exposure to come in. But I'd love to. We'd love to show people that. But and maybe I'll take those on my own. Actually, I like to do that. This is M65 again, and M65 again is just one of those galaxies that, again, this is the one that's the furthest of the chain. It's 42 million light years away. And these are all spiral galaxies, by the way. They're all spirals, and you can see dark lanes in all of them. That is dark dust that is obscuring parts of the galaxy as seen from here. And these spirals are kind of like interesting, because if there were people, or beings that say lived in any one of these galaxies, and there are, I'm sure, they would look in the sky and see these companions to them, to their galaxy in the sky. In the same way that we would see the Andromeda galaxy in our night sky, and that's M31, and the Triangulum galaxy, M33. And they wouldn't be terribly bright either. They'd be only about as bright as these, Andromeda is, which is a very bright galaxy. It's a naked eye galaxy that you can see with your eye. That is because it's 2 million light years away. All right. Well, none of those galaxies are that close to this galaxy. So if you're in this galaxy, the other two are going to be looking faint. You wouldn't even see them in your night sky unless you had a telescope. And they would be probably smaller than the Andromeda galaxy. The Andromeda galaxy is very large, actually. It has probably over 1 trillion stars compared to our 100 billion to 400 billion at the very, very high end, our estimate. So that's galaxies are of very different sizes and everything. It's just crazy. There's so many different galaxies and so many different types of galaxies. So it's just beautiful, So let's go to one more here while we're here. All right, and we're going to go to a galaxy also here in Leo, and it's called Messier 96. Now, Messier 96 is an interesting galaxy. It may look just like a blob to us here, but it's about the same distance as one of the other galaxies we just saw. And I'm going to go to 12,800 ISO for this one, go to 25 seconds. At 32 million light years, it's about the same distance as the other three that we saw. I scratched the last one, which is over 40 million light years away. This one's 32 million light years away, and it's also a spiral, but it's got an odd shape to it. And I want to see if we can see any of the dark lane that goes across the nucleus. You can actually see it's somewhat of a tight spiral, and I think that's what makes this a really pretty object. But we'll see. Maybe we're in luck. Kind of hard to see these things sometimes, but let's check it out. Yeah, now see, this is just the raw image, but with processing, if I took about 25 shots of this and I stacked them and I did some image processing, I have these special algorithms that I had the right to allow me to pull out structure in the galaxy and stuff. I bet you we would see this really, really nicely. You can see some of the dark dust along the bottom there. It's sort of curved, and you can also see some up just to the right and lower side of that nucleus. It's really, really pretty.
Is this one that you have on your desktop?
No, it's not actually. I'm going to show you those if I can.
Because it kind of looks like him, but yeah, I don't think it is.
It's not. No, this is Messier 96, also known as NGC 3368. All right, and as I said,
things up.
Yeah, I figured. I'm glad. See, all I had to do was tell her, right, folks? I mean, it's all you gotta do, guys.
that dark dust underneath that's curved, that kind of looks like a smile, and that.
That's true.
What did you call it? The globular.
Oh, globular clusters?
No. Something I called it a star, and he said it looked stellar, but it was just.
Oh, the bulge, the nuclear
bulge, yeah,
the nuclear bulge. Yeah, that's the.
Yeah, that looks like an eye.
Yeah, and most galaxies do have that kind of look to them. Now this is gonna be something. Let's try this. This might be tougher. I'm gonna try and see if we can find this next guy, which is right next to it. Okay, and let's see. It's not going to move far because now we're going to see if we can see three galaxies.
Wait, what was the last one called, though? And not just M96. What was the name?
There is no name. It's just M96.
Really?
Yeah. Not every Messier has a different, a private name like that. But let me just make sure.
That's really disappointing.
Well, let me.
They all have nicknames.
Some of them do. Let me make sure that I don't. I'm not lying to you here. No, it was found also by McCain, and cataloged by Messier later.
I don't know. I just assumed, and that of course is wrong with me. But I just assumed all of them would have had a nickname, because wasn't that the basics? You look up and you see an image of something, and
well, sometimes,
then
yeah,
build on that.
sometimes. But if you've got like so many that you're looking at, you know, it can be tricky. 25 seconds at 12,800. Let's see what we get. Now, going back to this, this galaxy we talked about that we just saw, that doesn't have a particular pet name. You have to understand that there's so many of these out there that we don't name every one of them. In the same way that we don't name, for instance, the ones that we're looking at now. Okay? Well, not yet. We're not looking at them. But let me just go and bring this up. Oh, we can see them. Check it out. That's cool. We haven't looked at these before. All right, so now let's take a look at what we're looking at here. Okay, we're actually seeing 3 galaxies in one view. Okay, we're seeing the one we're looking at is M105. That one's just to the right of center. Okay, I'll put it in the center just for a moment. Okay, so there's M105 right there. Okay, and then if we go up and over, this one that's next right here in the center, that one is NGC 3371. And then down here, this little faint one, okay, that's also that's NGC 3373. And together these three form a really interesting target for moderate telescopes to see. And if you'll notice, you'll find that some objects are Messier objects and some objects are not. Some objects are just NGC or even other catalog names. And the reason for that is because Messier didn't catalog every object for the Messier catalog because he didn't include them. Right? This one he did. This one is the Messier 105, that one to the right we just looked at. You know, this one here. Okay. This is...
Do you think he saw the other two, figured they weren't comets, and just didn't even make note of them?
No. He might not have actually seen it with his equipment, you know. But this is 105 and Messier 105. So that's a pretty good thing. We're doing a nice tour of the Leo galaxies tonight. And we're only a little bit, just a short distance away from Regulus, the brightest star in Leo, which is a little to the lower right, a little bit more, few degrees to the lower right of us in this view. So yeah, that's a nice view. And now,
Ted is asking a great question, and I'm surprised I haven't asked it in the past.
Okay.
When looking through a telescope, is there any way to tell the difference, or how do you tell the difference between a galaxy and a star?
Well, that's a good question, and I'll tell you why. Because depending on the distance of the galaxy, it could just look like a little stellar object. Mm-hmm. And if you take a longer exposure, that's kind of how you differentiate it. Like here, you see stars, and then you see fuzzy spots. Well, the fuzzy spots are galaxies. Whole island universes of stars. All right? And the stars are separate stars that are in our galaxy, and we're just looking through them to the much more distant galaxies. You know, once you get out of our galaxy, there's no stars out there. I mean, there might be some rogue stars and runaway stars. In fact, my astronomical thesis was on runaway stars leaving our galaxy at high speed. And these runaway stars were very fast movers that left our galaxy. And so they might be in between galaxies, but they're just isolated stars. There's not very many of them. So galaxies are the home for civilizations, most likely. Boy, it'd really be terrible if a civilization got yanked out of the galaxy over time and had to end up trying to find their way back. Holy cow. I'm taking us to another spot right now, just so you know. It's gonna...
And we'd like to see Jupiter again before the end of the stream if we could.
We are.
Okay.
We're gonna... Not right now, though.
No.
All right. I'm taking us to another particular set of galaxies that you'll see, and these do have a name because they have a actually they have a cumulative name. They actually have a name for all of these objects that are here. So this is 25 seconds at 12,800 ISO. And then, so for 25 seconds, we just sit still, and then we come back and look at what we're talking about here and give you an idea.
Or we could take another question.
Yeah, please do.
When you were talking about runaway stars, Maddie wants to know, is it possible for a star to move from one galaxy to another? And I love that question.
Yeah, I love that question too. And we've never seen that because we haven't been around long enough to know. Okay, but it's possible that over time, if it gets ejected from our galaxy, that it could be captured by another galaxy. But there's no guarantees of that, actually, you know. But it's kind of cool to think about. Now, this is, you can see here, and let me just get you to these. You can see here, if we come in a little bit, we have one faint galaxy there, okay? We come down, we have another galaxy there, another galaxy over there to the right, and then over here to the left, we have two more galaxies. Okay, they're just out of shot. They're not, well, they're in, but they're just out. Now, those represent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's one down at the bottom here. Whoops, sorry about that. There's one down the bottom here, and I'll try and zoom into it. Very faint. It's down here. There it is. See it? There's that one. And these galaxies all represent a particular set of galaxies that were discovered by, both, some of these were discovered by Charles Messier, but this is in the heart of the Virgo cluster of galaxies, and this is called Markarian's chain. These are the Markarian chain galaxies, there's many galaxies here, and in fact there's more than we can see with our eye. A Hubble view of this area would show quite a few more galaxies. It'd be a little wider field. You actually see many more galaxies. There's more to the left of these actually still. If we went to the left, you'd see more, but they're still faint. But this globally, universally, these are 57 million light years away as a cluster of galaxies. So they're their own group, and that's really impressive, to see these out there. And so Markarian's chain is really something to behold, So that's what we're looking at. Now, I know I'm jumping from one to the next, and that's okay because I want you to see a lot of objects tonight. And we will go back to Jupiter in a little bit. And I just never know when to quit. That's my problem. Sorry. But I want to take us to one other spot, which is literally almost right over our head. So I'm going to be interested to see how well the telescope can handle seeing this. All right, well, let's try it, and it may mess us up here. Let me and the reason I say that is because I have to be careful. I may be whipping this whipping the dome around here, so let me just do this and we'll go and see what happens. Here we go. Woof, I made it. I have a cap on the end of the telescope which allows me to actually keep the moisture off the main part of the scope. The trouble with it is that it's unfortunately it's very shall I say temperamental, and it can actually contact the dome because there's a little flange on the inside of the dome that you use to open and close the dome, and it might hit that. So I'm doing a 25-second exposure at 12,800 right now of this object, which we have seen before. And trust me, you like it. I know you do. So you'll see it in a moment.
That could be so many things.
I know. You have no idea. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I just got that.
Just got what?
What you said. Okay, now, a lot of people know what this is already. This is the Whirlpool galaxy, okay, which is Messier 51. And now look at this. tell me that having something directly over our heads, this is directly over our heads. Look at the detail in this galaxy. Is this not stunning? Oh, it's just beautiful. Holy cow, look at that. Look at that. Oh,
when it was a little further away, it almost looked like a music note. It's very, very pretty.
Didn't it though? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, this is the Whirlpool galaxy, and the Whirlpool galaxy never disappoints. I would love to just do, if I wasn't cold, I would actually stay out and do more photography of this. The Whirlpool galaxy is amazing, okay, and for all its detail, it's 28 million light years away. And it has a companion galaxy, just like we have a pair of companion galaxies. We actually have 3, as it turns out, not just 2. People are used to the small and large Magellanic Clouds that are companion galaxies to our own. But we also have this irregular dwarf-like galaxy that's also hanging around with us that has sort of just been found. It's really kind of cool. Now, this is looking face down. So basically, it's a face-on galaxy. We're seeing it almost directly from the top. And it's just beautiful. The Whirlpool is a target for amateurs for many years. We're now looking at it through the least amount of air that we could have over our heads. So it's going to be absolutely stunning. And it sure is. It does not disappoint. I'm going to take another photo of that at the same 25 seconds at 12,800. Then I'm going to take us to something else for a little sneak peek of what's to come, and then we'll go back to Jupiter. But I'll tell you, it's been a successful night. The clouds are staying kind of low to the east at the moment, and so it's preserving our sky. But I will say this, the seeing is not that good, and the transparency is also not that good. We rated these things on a like a 1 to 5 level. The seeing tonight might be a 3 at the most, and the transparency probably a 3 at the most. So we're nowhere near good for the night yet. That said, just check out, when we look at this again, just check out the detail in this galaxy. You can actually see knotty details that just have remained elusive. But look at that. It's just stunning. I mean, it almost looks like a finished photograph, doesn't it? It's so beautiful.
That's what Daryl said, that it looked just like a picture, and a lot of people are pointing out that it looks like a hurricane, and
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Yeah, it does.
Like something you'd see on a weather map.
That's right. Yeah. Well, if you think about it, it's a large pinwheel on the canvas of the universe's weather map, so it's pretty cool.
I love how astronomy brings out the poetry in people.
Yeah, I know, huh?
There's been some talk about the Beehive cluster. I don't know if your Hornet story prompted that. M44 between Cancer or Leo and Gemini.
Yeah, that's Persepi. That's actually let me see where Persepi is. Persepi's sort of a star cluster. It's there. It's kind of boring, but if someone's asking for it, I'd like to show it if we can. But
I mean, as you talk about it, I want to see it now too. I don't know if that was talked about before. I don't think we looked at it before. I don't know.
No, I don't
what prompted it, but hey, let's take a peek.
If we can. I don't believe. I believe it's going to be too low right now. But I will look.
Then if not, we can try on a future show.
Yes, we can.
Because we do actually have some more questions coming in while you do that.
Go ahead.
Hemi, I believe they're new to our channel. Welcome. They want to know what, and this is going to be hypothetical because we kind of talked about it in chat a little bit. They ask, if our nearest star becomes supernova, would it affect our planet? Now we're thinking like Alpha Centauri is the nearest star, and it would be too far to do anything, but...
Yeah, the nearest star that could go supernova, and I have to look because they kind of, there's pretty well understood reasons for this, but if a nearby star goes supernova, it really wouldn't affect us unless it actually spewed out a ton of ejected matter that, which it will. I mean, but it may not come in our direction for all we know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to do one other thing here at the same time. I'm going to go to this object to see if we can get to it just temporarily. Okay, hold on.
Ooh.
Hang on.
What was that noise?
That's the movement of the dome. Oh, wow.
I heard some weird noise as we jetted by something blue. It was almost like...
Oh, sorry.
It sounded like a water drop, but it was like echoey and...
Okay.
I don't know, like a sound effect. It wasn't the grinding of the telescope moving. I don't know what that noise was. Maybe it was just me. Yeah.
Well, I did swing the dome around pretty hefty. Okay, this is what you were asking for. This is Praesepe. It's actually just almost setting, so it's going to be kind of a tough view. But let me I'll do 1.6 seconds at 2000 ISO just to kind of give you a view of it. Okay, maybe a little more. I'll do a little more at this, let's say 6 seconds, and I'll actually go up to 3200, see what we get. I have to stand absolutely still when we take these pictures because even though the pier is isolated from the rest of the building, it is resting on the ground, and the ground does vibrate, and it does transmit vibrations down to the ground. In fact, a heavy truck going by will upset us a view, unfortunately. So, okay, so that 6 seconds, that's Praesepe, the Beehive M44. And let's go to 15 seconds. Actually, the house is partially obscuring it. It's actually, we're seeing, that's why it's so dark even at the higher exposures. Because the house is actually obscuring a little bit. And it's on the eastern, kind of toward the eastern horizon. So I figure if we can't see it, you know, all season long, if it gets to the eastern horizon, well, guess what? It's my fault we didn't get to see it, right? But there we go, and that's actually that's the Beehive right there. M44 cluster. Isn't that pretty?
See, and I had said before, I'm not usually too big of a fan of global clusters.
Well,
I like this one.
This isn't globular. Okay, this is just an open cluster. It's called an open cluster. Yeah, and that's sort of like a smattering of stars. And let me see now.
This is very pretty. I like.
It is pretty. It is very pretty, actually. And this is the real-time view of it. This is the photograph of it. You know, so that's really pretty. And you wonder, like, how many of these worlds, how many of these stars have worlds around them? And how many of them have civilizations? You know, you just gotta wonder, you know, we no longer think this is an impossibility anymore. I mean, it could be the Federation, like Star Trek kind of a thing, I say as a joke, but still. It truly could be almost that incredible, you know?
Well, see, like, there's so many different clusters. There's the open and the globular and everything like that.
Yes.
But, like, how do they decide which is the most worthy to be studied? Like, why aren't we sending, like, a satellite towards this?
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about that, well, then we have to go and you know, configure a satellite to, for instance, go to I don't know, a distant star. We don't have a way to do that. We don't have any way of doing that yet. We don't know how to go to a distant star yet, right?
No, now, but isn't like James Webb, which is it? Is it Kepler that's going kind of towards Vega and kind of searching?
That's Oumuamua, you know, the asteroid. That came from where Vega was. That's, I think, what you were saying. I'm not sure.
No, it's not James Webb, obviously, but it was either Kepler or Spitzer, maybe, or
well, those are just in an orbit. They're not. They're in a assigned location.
Yeah, but they were sent in a certain direction. They have a certain field of view.
The
direction they're going. Why not send it in this direction to see what's in this cluster? Or why is this not a worthy candidate to examine? Or, you know what I mean? Like, how do they make that conclusion that
yeah,
want to send it this way towards this item?
Well, the universe spreads out around us in a spherical three-dimensional space. So it's really, we don't have enough human beings on this planet to study all the locations we'd like to study, because there's so many out there. So it's going to just take time. And we're not going to have all the answers even after we think we have all the answers, you know, in my view. So I think that it's going to be very interesting, you know, and just crazy. You know, it's going to be really crazy when we actually try to, you know, pull this all together and try to figure out just what it is we do know. Because I'm sure that we don't really know a whole lot, you know, at this point. I mean, we're trying to learn more. We think we know some things. But it's really hard to know what we do and don't know, because we don't know what the questions to ask. We have to ask the right questions, you see. And that's the thing. We don't know what those questions are yet. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to figure this out. But we don't know the answers yet. I'm going to another object, by the way, just so you know. Moving. Let's go this way. Okay, go this way. Hang on. You're hearing the dome turn there. As you can tell, I went quite a distance. Let's see. That should be good. That should be just about there. Let's see what we got.
And speaking of clusters, Ronald wants to know, how do the stars interact in a star cluster?
You know what?
Yes,
That's a wonderful question, and I'll tell you what it is we do and don't know. First of all, in a large cluster like that, and that's actually a fairly small, low population cluster. There's not a whole lot of stars there. But in a cluster like that, and I'm going to take a picture and I'll tell you what I'm doing in a minute. We find that we have a problem, and the problem is we can't calculate exactly where all these all these objects, sorry, not all the objects, but all the stars will actually go. 10 seconds at 12,800 here, with 3% left on that battery. So what does that mean? It means that we actually have to try and figure out just what. There we go. Sorry. So what I'm saying is, we have a problem with these objects that are always in these star clusters. The problem is they're always moving, and they're all interacting with the gravitational fields of every other star. All right. So most of them are. So these stars, for instance, are very complicated with their movements, and that problem has a well-known name in physics. It's called the N-body problem. N is in November. The N-body problem. Solving the N-body problem is a very big task, because you have to calculate all the interactions from one star to another, each individual star. If you have 100 stars in a star cluster, it could take some time to calculate properly all the interactions gravitationally, even with these computers that we have today. Now imagine expanding that to a globular cluster where there might be 300,000 stars or 100,000 stars. Every one of those stars is there for a reason. It's because they're gravitationally bound to each other. They didn't just like show up in one section of space. They're gravitationally bound to each other. And that's the big problem we have. That is the N-body problem. And so they do interact with each other. And to figure it out takes quite a bit of work. So you might have guessed by now that this is the beginning of the summertime sky coming up. It is 11:27 here. You can see the time in the upper right. This is M57, the Ring Nebula. So we're looking at the ring for the first time this season. And it's still a little bit low in the sky, but we're trying to get a pretty cool view of it. That was actually a 10-second exposure, so that's pretty good for just 10 seconds. But if I come back to say 5 seconds, I bet you we'll see a little bit better rendering of it. That is, it'll look a little more contrasty. because the center was a little bit blown out there. Let's see how it looks now. Yeah, it looks okay. I mean, I think part of the problem is that it's at 12,800. I can drop it down to, say, 4,000 and increase the exposure to like 15 seconds and see what we get. And the battery's down to 2%. Let's see if we can do this image before that happens, before it dies. Here we go. So 15 seconds at 4,000 ISO. And let's see how the image looks. Again, it's low, so take that into consideration. Meanwhile, Jupiter's getting higher in the sky.
Yay.
Yeah. So let's see what we got.
And we have some questions coming in for the
Sure.
Ring Nebula.
Awesome.
Ronald wants to know, what is the ring from? And Ted wants to know why it's so blue.
You know what? Those are wonderful questions. And I shall answer them both. We're looking actually at a remnant of a star that has died. A star that might be kind of like how the sun will go. It's not a supernova remnant. It's what's called a planetary nebula. And the stars, once they expand into a red giant, and they do that when they start running out of hydrogen fuel. And when they run out of hydrogen fuel, which is their main fuel, they begin to shrink. And that shrinking causes the core of the star to get warmer, actually a lot warmer. And when it reaches the temperature of 100 million degrees, well, 100 million Kelvin actually, when it reaches 100 million Kelvin, then the star can start burning helium and fusing helium into things like carbon and nitrogen, oxygen, atoms, that kind of thing. And as we've talked about in previous SkyTour live streams, the stars are the forges for the elements. They actually forge the elements in our periodic table in their cores, and this is how they do it. So when a 13 million Kelvin threshold is reached before a star actually turns on, at 13 million Kelvin, that's when the star literally begins hydrogen fusion. So it forms hydrogen, takes 2 hydrogen atoms overall and makes them into helium. Now, it's called the proton-proton chain, and it's a little bit, I'm simplifying it a lot because, the first thing that happens is it goes to deuterium first, and deuterium gets matched with another hydrogen, forms a helium isotope, and it ends up with helium-4 as the result. So, but don't worry about all of that. Just know that hydrogen is converted to helium in the normal hydrogen fusion stars. That's like our sun, like many of the stars we see in the sky. Okay. Now, once the star runs out of that hydrogen, then, as I said, it begins to contract because the star is always in a battle. This radiation pressure of this fusion going on in the core is a tremendous liberator of energy. And as that energy flows outward, it pushes the outward envelope of the star out. And the star is also so massive that it's constantly trying to collapse. Gravity is so strong. And so as the hydrogen fuel runs out, that outward pressure diminishes. And so now the outer envelope of the star, the whole outer star, begins to collapse slowly. And that's because gravity's starting to win. But that contraction and compression, because you're taking the same amount of mass and compressing it, making it more dense in the middle, and that comes with a price. That price is the higher temperatures come along with it too. And when it reaches 100 million Kelvin, that's when the helium flash occurs, that's called, and the helium begins to fuse. And that breathes new life into the star. But what that does is it causes the star to inflate somewhat rapidly because it now has this newfound fuel. And as the star begins to inflate, it becomes a larger and larger and larger mass of star. So not mass, but a larger diameter, okay? It just becomes bigger. And it also lowers its temperature, and so that's why it goes to the red end of the spectrum. Our famous moniker that we use, which is what, Amanda, for the spectral classes of the stars?
O, B, and F, G, K, M.
O, B, A, F, G, K, M, yeah. And
I still do it to the
in your head, you're
to the
saying
rhythm.
words. Yeah,
to the rhythm. I'm getting a little faster at just the letters, but it's still to the rhythm. I noticed that today.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, OBFJGKM. Yeah,
it's
whatever
O
works.
be a fine guy kissed me.
Right.
It's a mnemonic.
Yeah, it's a mnemonic
that starts.
Yeah, and we were taught it with the word girl if we were guys, and the girls are taught with guy if they were girls. So.
But now we're politically correct, so it's up to your own preference.
Exactly.
Let the G be for whatever you want it.
That's right. That's right. So anyway, when we look at that star that's now bloated into this red giant, like our sun will eventually, then it's burning helium in its core. It's also burning hydrogen in an outer shell, just outside the core, and then it starts running out of the fuel. When it does, the star doesn't just collapse on itself and explode like a supernova. That's what happens with big stars, because they reach a catastrophic endpoint. With stars like our sun, stars like this one was that we see in the image now, those stars, the star just begins to collapse slowly, and finally it ends up leaving this little tiny white dot, which you can kind of just barely see in the middle there. But what's that stuff on the outside? Well, that stuff on the outside is the outer layers of the star that got left behind when the star collapsed. All right. They might also have puffed up, because it's a little bit variable. The star might pulsate a little bit. Usually they pulsate when they get older, as they can't be stable anymore. As new shells begin burning and fusing new atoms, they might actually puff out a little faster, and then slower, then faster and slower. And it might be it's like blowing smoke signals. So we see that we get these layers sometimes in these planetary nebulae, and they correspond to different times in the star's evolution when it was going through these different pulsations and variability. And that's what we're seeing with the Ring Nebula here. Now, studies of the Ring Nebula show that we're actually potentially looking at a somewhat cylindrical object, and that could be explained by something called bipolar nebulae, and it's like how planetary nebulae sometimes look. And I see the battery symbol, yes. And the bipolar nebulae are, not moody nebula, but they're actually nebulae that actually exhibit some type of north-south or east-west orientation that is a little bit more, a little bit larger one way or another. So it's an axial deformity along the edge of the nebula that you might see, and that bipolarity is something that we've seen in recent years. We've learned more about it, and it's really an interesting facet of stars, because we don't really know exactly what we're looking at when we look at these stars like this, but we do think that we're seeing these bipolar nebulae, and we're seeing them like right here. We're seeing that maybe we're looking at a barrel, basically looking down the face of a barrel, for all we know. I mean, we don't know for sure, but it's suspected that that's how it looks, and we can't, as I said, can't say for sure, but I'm guessing we're probably pretty close. So now, as far as the color, well, I talked to you about how excuse me, I talked to you about how the stars are element factories. Well, in the same way that they're element factories, when they slough off these outer layers like they do, one of the things that we end up seeing is that we have different colorations in these nebulae that surround the stars. And these nebulae are the former stellar atmosphere of the star. Now we're seeing the materials that the star was made with. We're also seeing, that is to say, what it formed from that was already in the interstellar medium. Our sun, for instance, has magnesium and calcium in its spectrum, but it can't possibly create these elements in its core. It's not massive enough. So it was made with these elements. And so when a star has a high composition, say, of oxygen or helium, and it sloughs this off, then the central dot in the middle of the Ring Nebula, which is this object we just looked at right here, okay, that central object is actually a white dwarf. It's the remains of the star that once was. But it's got a lot of ultraviolet radiation. It's very powerful in the ultraviolet. That said, when that ultraviolet radiation hits these atoms, of, say, oxygen out there in the nebula, which were created in one time in the star, then that oxygen will absorb some of the energy from this ultraviolet radiation that's hitting it from the white dwarf. And then it spontaneously causes the atom to ionize. That is, the electrons just leap off. And this is doubly ionized oxygen that we're looking at here. And then it goes through these electrons go through a process called recombination, where they recombine with the atom. And when they do that, when they jump from this very high energy state down to a lower, well, there's a penalty to be paid for that. They give off energy and they drop to a lower level in the atom. And when they give off energy, that energy in the universe is in the form of light. And in our case, it's a bluish light. And this is the indication of the stellar goings on that went into making this star. We're seeing oxygen. This is an oxygen 3, O3. All right, and that's doubly ionized oxygen. And so this is why it's blue, and that's a characteristic blue color. Now, around the fringe, you can see some red. Well, that red is the famous hydrogen alpha, the H2 that we talk about, the singly ionized hydrogen. And you might say, well, wait, why you say singly ionized when you're saying H2, the H Roman numeral 2? Just was like O Roman numeral 3, O, I, is doubly ionized oxygen. How come it's not O2, OII? Well, that's because O1, that is O in the single Roman numeral 1, is the base ground state. That is, that's the non-ionized, atom. And so we don't just say, we have an atom of O1, we just say oxygen. We don't put the Roman numeral 1 all the time. So that's why. O1 is like redundant. But that's just the way the nomenclature was put out there. Now, as far as the red color, I said that's hydrogen. The blue is the oxygen. And it has to do with the ionization and recombination when those electrons came back to the atom. And again, it's all powered by that little white dwarf in the middle that you can barely see here. When it gets higher in the sky, we'd actually be able to see it better. So let me actually just try to do 15 seconds at 5,000 just before we go back to Jupiter, which I promised we would do. And Jupiter's higher in the sky. It's more in the darker area. And we'll notice that Io is further out, and we'll also see that the red spot's probably not there.
Do you have any kind of filter you can put on your telescope to see ultraviolet light?
Well, ultraviolet light and infrared light suffer greatly a little bit in the atmosphere. We can't really see too well. We actually have to put them. We have to put these in a. What do we got there? Yeah, it's still not that good, but that's just the way the sky is right now. The seeing is bad, the transparency is bad, so planetary nebulae suffer. Yeah, we don't see UV very well, and we don't see infrared very well either. We know that infrared can be stopped by a cloud or water vapor, and we have lots of water vapor, so we don't get a whole lot of no love there, unfortunately. You don't have an ultraviolet observatory at sea level. They're all going to be high in the mountaintops to see any infrared and any ultraviolet. And by the way, because Jupiter's at opposition, it's actually the brightest it's going to be for a while, and for 13 months. And that brightness is for magnitude. Remember, our numbers are negative when they're brighter. It's negative 2.5. So that's what it is, and it's pretty bright. So let's go back to Jupiter and take another look for the last time at Jupiter. And we say the last time because Jupiter's going to blow up overnight. No, just kidding. I just don't know why I said that. I just thought it was funny.
People are paying attention.
Well, I just think it's funny. So let's go over there now and head over to Jupiter, Captain. Scotty, get us to Jupiter. Aye, sir. If you don't do it, you're fired. Aye, sir. Understand. So here we go. Off to Jupiter. Yeehaw! I just saw it go by. It'll be back. There she is. Hello, Jupiter. Welcoming to you. Welcome back, Jupiter.
Ooh, you can actually see it now on its own.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? Here, let's just zoom in like this to see. Wait a minute. Let's go here. Hold on. Let's go do this. Oh, wait a minute. Just a minute. There we go. Yeah, see? Also notice that Europa is a lot closer. So Europa is moving around in its orbit. See that? And Ganymede is closer than it was. If you took a time lapse from the same position and you'd watch it, you'd see the moons just dancing, go zip, zip, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But they're actually going in a circle. Let's try and get a nice photo of this to see how much detail we can see. Well, first of all, I want to take us to a different spot. Let me let's go down to literally 50 ASA, the lowest I can go in this camera, and then come back up to here, and let's check out what we can see once I zoom in here. If I can just make sure I don't go the wrong way here. There we go. Alrighty.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Ah,
Ooh.
sliding off to the left there.
Oh yeah, no worries. It's back. Okay. Is that about centered in the screen, or does it have to go over a little more? A little more, right?
I would... Ooh.
Right there?
You're trying to get Jupiter centered?
Yeah.
I would have said gone to the right a little more, but...
Okay, but that's you gotta look at the stream, because there's extra real estate in our private view that you're seeing, the real-time view, that you don't see.
Go to YouTube? Okay,
yeah. Yeah, so check it out. I'm just curious.
I would still say a little more right, and then give me a second for the delay.
Okay. Well, let me just, first of all, let's go take a look at Jupiter now. The seeing has gotten decidedly worse since earlier, but, I mean, if you notice, there's actually some more detail. You can see more detail on Jupiter's clouds, cloud bands. I think it's actually looking pretty. That's pretty cool. Looks nice. Not bad. You know, not bad at all. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to refocus. Let me bring this up till I see some moons. Just barely get to see a moon or so. Here we go. And now I'm going to bring us in.
See, I can see all four.
Well, yeah, now you can. You know, because
before you zoomed in, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, because I know we're there, I can see very, very, very faintly.
Yeah, you can see
I can see the four there, yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's nice. And you can see those, some people, believe it or not, have actually said they could see them with their eyes. And when tested, they were correct. So that's kind of cool. So, I mean, that not many people can obviously see these with their eyes, but there have been some people in history that have actually been able to do that, which I think is just nutty. Okay, let's see. That's the small one now, I think. Let me just get the fine focus, which I think is pretty much there, but let's do it anyway. Okay, so that's out. All right. Okay, let's try that. Let's try that one, hey? Okay, there we go. Now we go back down to here and pop in. Now let's see what we get. It's about the same, don't you think? Looks nice, doesn't it?
Jupiter looks beautiful.
Yeah, that little blue cast that you're seeing is because I'm using a special filter to get rid of some of the non-essential glow, so to speak, that is in the way, and that's what makes it look a little bit blue, and I can correct for that once I get it in. But I think that's nice. I'm gonna do another video to capture Jupiter like this. And I'm going to do another 20-second video that I can then use to create a stacked image of this version of Jupiter and see how the other one compares. Because that was done, what, an hour ago? Maybe?
What was an hour ago? Sorry?
The other version of Jupiter that I made, these frames when I took the video of Jupiter. How long ago was that? About an hour?
Yeah, about an hour and a half, yeah.
Okay.
Great. It was 20 after 10 your time.
Okay.
And now it's what, 10 to 12?
Yeah. Drizzle, trazzle, truzzle, thrum. Time for this one to go home. Remember that? That was Tooter the Turtle. Help, Mr. Wizard! Oh boy, Tooter is in a lot of trouble again. So, all right, let's see here. That's a beautiful Jupiter. That's see, the seeing it comes and goes. You notice how there's some moments where it's beautiful and then moments when it's not. That's why stacking images makes so much sense, because you actually end up optimizing the imagery. Frame by frame, you pick only the image frames that are good, and you eliminate the others. And what you get is a perfectly, really good image at the end. But wow. So I have to tell you, I'm very happy that you guys were able to come out and enjoy this. I'm going to be closing down the stream for now. But I want to tell you that I really, really appreciate you coming out. Thanks for coming out and joining Amanda and I as we do another SkyTour LiveStream here in the John Zach Memorial Observatory in picturesque northwestern Connecticut. See, I haven't said that in a long time, So, hey, check us out online if you want at www.fxmodels.com. Check out our online store and buy some Pluto, Mars, and Moon swag in the form of these 3D craters that we print here from NASA data. And we're told that our 3D printing process is superior to some of the others that people have seen. So we're pretty proud of that. And you can also, if you're interested in UFOs, you can pick up the History Maker series of our UFOs, which are little models that are available as well. They'll be on sale in Pine Bush, New York, where we're going to be on May 20th. And we'll talk about...
19th.
May 19th? Oh, yes.
It's the same
Saturday.
day as the royal wedding.
That's right. Saturday, May 19th. We will be there. So thank you, guys. Thank you so much for coming. And I am Mark D'Antonio. And for Amanda Curran, I just have to say, I'm chilly. But I'm out of here. Good night, folks. Thanks for coming.